Peoria Public Schools, District 150 Board of Education meeting for August 12, 2013 to order. Madam Secretary, would you please call the roll?
Here.
Here. Here.
Here.
Here.
Thank you. Would you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Do we have any announcements?
Yes.
Dr. Latham.
Good evening. Just want to have you focus your attention on the front of the bulletin boards up here. Each month, we'll be holding Parent University out at our different schools, and so the month leading up to the Parent University event, that particular school will be highlighted. So for the month of August, the first Parent University event will be held in September is for Mark Beals Middle School. And so they've shared their information. As you are aware, Mark Beals is entering into year 3 of the pre-authorization phase of the International Baccalaureate Program. And so the principal has shared with you different things that are happening at their school site. Once again, Parent University will be held on a monthly basis out at the school site so that you won't forget. We're going to be spotlighting those schools in advance for you. Also tonight, the board is being asked, and I'm just announcing early because I know we have several presentations. You're asked to approve a agreement tonight with the Center for Prevention of Abuse. And I just wanted to recognize tonight that Martha Herm is here for the Center for Prevention of Abuse, and also Janae is here from CEFCU. CEFCU provided a major amount of the funding to support our schools and the programming. As you know, Aaron's Law was passed by the state this year, and we're required to provide sexual abuse information to all of our students. The Center for Prevention of Abuse will be helping us with that, and so just wanted to recognize them tonight. Special thank you to both of you for your support. The goal is to target 567 classrooms this school year. And once again, it's a long-standing partnership that we have with the Center for Prevention of Abuse, but also CEFCU is now joining us as a partner. So thank you very much.
Very good. Thank you. Any other announcements? Reverend Butler.
Yes, I have an announcement for all of the, used to be known as Lincoln Tigers years ago, but perhaps some time ago when Dr. Lathan had asked us about those who we would send a thank you note to for what's been their investment in our education and our achievements, I was joined by others who said that Mr. Bob Carruthers would be that one person who was the principal of Lincoln School back in the early 70s. So there are a group of individuals in the community that passed this information along to me and asked that I share it with you all tonight. They're having the 2013 Lincoln Tigers School Reunion, and it's going to be held August 30th and 31st. The special guest for this reunion is former principal Robert Carruthers. There's going to be a meet and greet on that Friday night starting at 6 o'clock, and it's going to be at the Peter H. Clark Lodge, which is located at 1101 Southwest Jefferson Street. And then Saturday, they're having the Tigers Cookout, and it's from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. It will be at the John Gwynn Jr. Park, which is 800 block Percy Baker Drive in Peoria, and if it rains, it will be held at the shelter. I'm mentioning it at this time because there is a deadline registration. There is registration per person and for per child before August the 18th. It's $20 a person, $10 per child, 12 and over, and then after that it goes up. There will be souvenir Lincoln Tiger t-shirts, which also they're asking that you place an order before August the 18th. The individuals that are chairing this event, and if you happen to know them, they are the ones as your point of contact, Pete Thomas and Greg Banks. Primarily anyone that's probably 50 or 53 and older. It's your reunion, your grade school reunion, not your high school reunion, your grade school reunion to see all those who you met 45 to 50 years ago, and the principal who guided all of us. So again, that's the Lincoln Tigers School Reunion, August 30th and 31st. I will pass this information on to you, Chris Copeland, so if anyone calls for that information, you will have it.
Thank you. Any other announcements? Okay. In the interest of maintaining a safe environment and to make people aware of procedures during an emergency, this is a short safety briefing. And this is done as a matter of just making sure you understand, because we have a lot of people in this room, and if there's an emergency, it'd be really helpful to know what to do in that case. So in the event of a fire in this building, there are 5 exits that lead outside. The most direct exit is the one in the back of this room to my right, leading to the double glass doors. The nearest fire extinguisher is located by the double doors that exit the parking lot, and there are 13 fire extinguishers in this building. In the event of a tornado warning or threatening weather, the hallway directly behind this boardroom is a designated storm shelter. In the event of a medical emergency, Chief Collins or one of our resource officers will call 911. And do we have anyone here who is currently certified in CPR? Raise your hand. Okay, so we have that. Good. And if there are any trip hazards or physical hazards, just if you're walking in and out of the aisles, there's a bag right here in the aisle, and there may be some cords. So just be careful when you walk around the room. Thank you for that, and from time to time we'll do that just to make sure people are aware of a safe environment. The next point is the approval of the minutes. Could I have a motion to approve the minutes from the meetings of July 1st and July 15th of 2013?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion on those? Any corrections? Madam Secretary, please.
Mrs. Costa? Aye. Mrs. Butler?
Aye.
Mrs. Patel? Aye. Mrs. Ross?
Aye.
Mr. Boyd?
Aye.
Mrs. Lukemire?
I will abstain because I was not present for the July 1st meeting.
Mr. Crawford?
Aye.
6 ayes, 1 abstain, motion carried.
Thank you. We've now come to the place on our agenda where members of the public may address the school board on any topic. Please come to the podium and give your name for the benefit of our minutes. The time limit for any one speaker is 5 minutes. The time limit for any one topic is 20 minutes. No person less than 18 years of age may address the board unless accompanied by his or her parent, guardian, or teacher, except with the unanimous consent of the board. Arnisha Johnson.
Hi, my name is Arnisha Johnson, and I am here to speak on the behalf of District 150. I enrolled my daughter back in Manual, the 7th and 8th grade academy, back in January. I received my letter in late April telling me that my daughter was approved. I wasn't worth a letter. You guys gave me a phone call and told me that my daughter was not able to attend Manual. It was not done in a timely manner. You guys gave me exactly 19 days in order to get my things together for my daughter, which it was already too late, which I had already spent $250 on her school supplies. I called you guys on the 31st once I had already received the phone call from Manual High School, and they told me that I had 2 options, either to send my daughter to Tree Wind Middle School or either remove my daughter from District 150. This is a picture of my daughter with her face. She's 12 years old. She was looking forward to going to Manual Academy. And all I asked you guys for was just a reasonable boundary waiver. It's not my fault, nor is it my daughter's fault that you guys closed the program after I was prepared and she was ready to walk into the school. So all I'm asking you guys on the panel is give my daughter a fair share of her education, because I do care about my daughter's education. And so for them to tell me either to take my daughter either to Tree Wind Middle School or remove her from District 150, it's not fair. It's not fair, and I will not accept it. I'm asking you guys for a boundary waiver because as of today, my daughter has no school to go to. And Monday, when school starts, I would like for my daughter to be somewhere educated. A boundary waiver that's not going to kill you guys. That's all I'm asking you guys for, is a simple boundary waiver so that my daughter can go and get the proper education, so she can be able to sit up there on the panel one day, so she can make the decision, so she can be there and she can have a voice for children. It's like you guys on the panel, y'all not thinking about the children, you're thinking about yourself. Let's worry about the children, and let's make sure that our children is getting the proper education that they are getting. That's all I ask for you guys, and please help me with this situation. Thank you.
Thank you. Jerry Knapp.
Terry Knapp, 922 West Wilshire Drive, Peoria. I just came from a meeting of the Peoria Old Timers Baseball Association, and the board voted unanimously to send a letter to the Park District and the school district urging you to keep the stadium space green. Darrell Klusendorf is the president of the Old Timers Association, which represents 500 members in Peoria, and we would hope that you would pay attention to not only the Homeowners Association, but also to these groups that want to keep that space green. It's also important for you to understand there is a group forming as we speak, and over the last couple of weeks, that's entertaining the idea of trying to get enough finances together to level Peoria Stadium and put a brand new world-class track facility, football facility, and soccer facility into the Peoria Stadium with a 9 or a 10 lane track in order to attract Nike tournaments from the standpoint of international and national tournaments and regional tournaments to come to Peoria. Many of those tournaments, track tournaments, could draw as many as 15,000, 20,000 people to Peoria, and for the Visitors and Convention Bureau would be a boon to the Peoria area. I did not mention to this particular group, I did mention to you a couple of years ago about the money from the riverboat. The money from the riverboat, as you know, goes to the city of Peoria and East Peoria. This year, East Peoria received a check for over $7 million from the riverboat, in turn gave $3.51 million to the city of Peoria. As I told you before, the city of Peoria chose to use their money to build a police station. That police station was retired. The debt on the police station was retired in 2003. Since then, they've taken in approximately $3.5 million per year. That money has gone into the capital fund, which is for road, streets, and gutters. Now, if you remember back, riverboat gambling and all gambling was passed on the backs of children and education. The city of Peoria has chosen not to spend a nickel of their money on children in Peoria, where East Peoria but basically built the East Side complex for children and parents and family concerns on the top of the hill over in East Peoria. Most of you have attended that particular facility. I would urge the tax-paying people of Peoria to urge the recipients of the tax money, that being the city government, the school district, and the park district, to get together, put their heads together, give the stadium area to the park district. In turn, the city should give the school district at least $1 million a year for 10 years of the riverboat money. That would leave them with $2.51 million to spend for road, streets, and gutters, I guess, if that's a good means to use that money for. But in turn, that money should be directed, that $1 million a year, to the school district. And hopefully the school district could see forth to give the park district the land and get out from under your encumbrance that you claim you have from the park district properties. So hopefully with all that going on, we can keep the Peoria stadium site green. I was also interested in bringing this point forward. We plan to bus, again, the lowest of the low students, 200 students, from the inner city out to Charter Oak and Lindbergh. This is not fair to these inner city kids. By the way, we did not even have summer school for these kids. As I recall, I didn't read anything about summer school. I talked to some people and they claimed there was no summer school this summer. I don't know. I know when I was mentoring children in the basketball arena, one of the top players who's still playing in Argentina 19 years later, who went to the NCAA tournament 4 times, a student at Richwoods, I put into night school and summer school and paid his fees so he could repeat his 3 classes in order to raise his grade point average and get into Purdue University. He went to summer school. He went to night school. We paid to have that class redone so that he could get a better grade in that class. He made the effort. We don't even have that available to us now. I don't understand that philosophy. We're taking these young people out of the inner city, putting them with the best of the best, putting them on a bus for an hour and a half every day for 176 days, and somehow we think that they're going to compete with the best of the best at Charter Oak and Mark Bills. Doesn't make educational sense to me. Thank you.
Sharon Cruz.
I would appreciate some clarification about board policy for purchase orders. During the last school year, the district spent about $55,000 sprucing up Wisconsin Avenue. I asked for the date of the meeting when the board approved the purchase of over $14,000 worth of furniture for the superintendent's conference room, including chairs and a mahogany conference table for $3,841. And also the $6,100 purchase for the new chairs that we see tonight. The FOIA response was that the furniture was purchased with a district purchasing card and therefore didn't require a board vote. Board policy states that cards shall be used only for expenses that are for the district's benefit and serve a valid and proper public purpose. I fail to understand how this furniture fits the stated use for a credit card. Even so, the policy does state that board approval is not required, doesn't state that board approval is not required just because a credit card is used. Also, the money for the furniture came from the education fund. Please explain why this is an education fund expense. Also, why didn't the $10,000 carpeting and the $16,000 glass for the entryways require bids? Board policy states that except in cases of urgent necessity, all purchases of $25,000 or less, but more than $5,000, shall be made by securing sealed bids from at least 3 available competitors. When the policy states all purchases, doesn't all mean all? No qualifiers. Was board policy violated? A quick look online suggested to me that there might be a state law governing purchases by school districts. Could someone clarify when bids are required? When District 150 withholds information requested through FOIAs, I wonder what you're trying to hide and why. In response to my June FOIA about textbook fees, only 2 of 8 items of data were provided. I understand personnel and student privacy issues, but a public body should freely provide all the data, especially about how tax money is spent. One of your favorite excuses for not providing data is the district does not possess records responsive to your request. I was surprised to learn that the district has no records as to how many student fees are paid by a government grant, has no records as to how much the district is reimbursed by a government grant, has no records of how many students do not qualify for free texts, has no records of how many students at each school have not paid their fees, and has no records of the total amount of unpaid textbook fees. Does anyone believe that no such records exist? The FOIA response did state that some of the data was being held at the school level and would be available in the fall. Amazingly enough, the district did possess records of the good news. So I received data as to how much was paid in textbook fees at each school for the last 2 years. By using data from the Illinois Report Card website, I was able to come up with some fairly decent estimates for the missing data at the last board meeting. Of course, Dr. Lathan's response to my comments made light of my estimated data. In fact, I wasn't happy with the estimated data. So I wrote to the Attorney General's office to find out if I might be entitled to the data for which there are no records. Turns out that I received a phone call from the Attorney General's office, and within a very short time after our conversation, I received the information for which the district had had no records. I guess the district had to estimate. Laugh out loud. In fact, information supposedly housed at the school level was evidently available on the central office's computer, because within minutes, the concise one page of data was emailed to me. All I had to do was multiply some numbers by fees of $55 or $65 to come up with new spreadsheets, which you have. Anyway. Please respond.
Savino Sierra.
My name's Sabino Sierra. I live at 1708 South Stanley. And I'm here to make a complaint too. And I hope the Journal will print some of the complaints that we bring. You know, they paint District 150 real rosy, but these are legitimate complaints, and all the public should know about them. How you people are really messing up the show, and what these two people before me have said is really some of the mistakes that you make all the time. On the Wednesday after the picnic with police at Blaine Sumner and Bernard Community Center, I visited the Bernard Community Center where a lot of our children were using the facility, and it was hotter than hell in all the building, in the gym and the rooms that the children were being tutored. I left there and went to Glen Oak School, and some of the teachers were in conference in a nice air-conditioned school building. Glen Oak School was supposed to be a community center for the area, but it wasn't permitted, so people from the Serenity area got St. Bernard's to give them the old school building to run their programs for our kids. You have done an injustice for the children in that area to do what you should be done for our children, for their own good. I accuse District 150 and the people who are running our school of downright lying of what Glen Oak Community Center School was supposed to do when the work was completed. So I urge you and demand that you write that now without any excuses. And the $10,000 bonus that you gave the superintendent was uncalled for, because there's too many wrongs that need to be corrected in this district. And there's a lot of fibbing and everything else, you know. When I stand up here, I don't stand up here to exercise my heart, because I tell it like it is. And I love all people. I just don't like the way they're trying to perform their duties. And so I hope you people get the word and straighten up and listen to your elders. I'm quite a bit older than any of you people sitting up there. And if you'd listen to some of the older people that probably have more wisdom than you people do, we might get some better things done. And so I want some better answers too from the superintendent of these complaints that she gets, or the questions that people ask. I don't want that smile and laughing and whatever have you, and quick talking. So maybe Pam, print some of that. Thank you.
Jeff Atkins Dutro.
Good evening, Jeff Adkins Dutro. Miss Johnson back there was in my English class when I first started teaching, and she's one of the early students who taught me more about being a good teacher than I taught her about English. And if I were you, I'd certainly recruit her to help recruit people for the Manual High School 7th grade, because she'll definitely get the kids there. And I'm really proud of her for advocating for her daughter's education. At the last board meeting, there was talk of ensuring the public views the district as being transparent, forthright, candid, square, and I have 3 recommendations that I think can help with that goal. Number 1, air public comments. You live stream the board meetings on the internet, however, the public comments are censored. As soon as it's time for the public to speak, a message appears on the screen for almost an hour that reads, "Broadcast will resume at the conclusion of presentation by audience." And then the broadcast magically resumes with the superintendent's response to audience comments, but the people at home never get to see which comments were made by the audience. Now, as long as you're very deliberately controlling what people do and don't see, you'll be seen as being, non-transparent. Air the public comments. I really don't think you have anything to lose and everything to gain by doing so. Allow the press, number 2, allow the press open access to your principals. Currently, any and all information that gets to the public has to be funneled through Mr. Copeland. You can't have something positive happen in building A over here without that information coming through this building and then out to the press. I would say open up the doors. I'd love to see the press down at Woodruff, where they have some amazing things going on, at their grant-funded preschool professional development, PD going on at Peoria High School, Manual. Superintendent Lathan just told me about Why Try that's going to be going on at Lincoln and Tree Win. Open the doors. They're going to uncover way more good things than bad. Number 3, welcome the union's voice. This year, you've banned the Peoria Federation of Teachers from speaking at the back-to-school gala. We're probably one of the few districts in the state that has allowed the president of the teachers union to speak at a back-to-school event. Giving us that voice allowed the teachers and the public to at least suspect our district has a collaborative mindset, and a lot of times we do work together well. Although you're certainly under no obligation to give us a voice at the back-to-school event, I'd find it unfortunate that we've been excluded. We've already moved on to Plan B. We will be welcoming our teachers back in a positive manner. Now, I must admit, if I were in your seat and I'd seen someone like me in the newspaper with a sword dressed up like a knight, I probably would have pulled the plug on myself as well. However, please understand, and I do want to state this publicly, that I understand that there's a time and place to air grievances and concerns, and the back-to-school event is certainly not one of those venues. My message would have been positive, welcoming, and it would have lauded our teachers' efforts. We've accepted your decision for this year. We've moved to Plan V. However, I'd respectfully ask that you invite us back to the stage next year. A few positives I'd like to highlight. Parent University, I had 2 of my executive board members comment on how well the programming is for that. The issue, though, seems to be that very few parents show up. The good news is that we're definitely here to help you get more parents to Parent University. Our union is currently working on compiling a list of PTA presidents, and maybe we and they can help get more people there. The preschool professional development, several schools throughout our district. I bet there aren't many districts in the state where you have teachers giving up 2 weeks of their summer to work with their respective administrations for the benefits of our schools and our students. I think that's a big deal. Every school in our district showed growth on the NWEA. Mr. Cloyd pointed that out last time. That's huge. Did y'all hear that? Every school went up on the NWEA. Very positive meeting today with the mayor, the chamber, the board of education, city council members, et cetera, regarding working together towards common goals. We look forward to more of the same. Thank you.
Elaine Hopkins.
Hello. For the second meeting in a row, I've been denied access to the full board packet that all of you have sitting in front of you. I requested this last time for the last meeting and was denied. The agenda that was published out on the web and on the door had serious mistakes in it. There's no way to really follow what's going on without getting that. Every other major organization in Peoria provides this to the press and the citizens who want it. The Peoria Housing Authority, the county board, the city council. Why can't I have it? I filed a Freedom of Information request last Monday to get it on Friday when you get it. I was told, oh no, we can't give it to you because it's not ready. That's what they said on Tuesday. So I filed another request on Friday to get it, saying, I know it's ready, I want it. No response. I called today, the Freedom of Information officer's out of the office. No response, no email, no nothing. What is wrong? Why can't we have that information? If there's sensitive stuff, you can redact it. It wouldn't take long. So I'm asking you again, give out this information to anyone who requests it. A lot of people probably won't. The PHA has a stack of them, so when you come into their meeting, if you want it, you can pick it up and read through it. There's all kinds of interesting statistics in there and information. I'm sure the same is true for what you see that we don't see. The citizens deserve that, and if you want public support, you need to be doing this kind of transparency instead of secretly holding that back until 3 or 4 days after the meeting has already taken place. It's disgraceful. I also want to say I commend Terry Knapp's idea about the stadium space. That's an excellent idea. That should be followed. It would pay dividends for you guys in terms of public relations. I call it the Great Awakening. People have finally picked up on what the school district is threatening to do with that site, turning it into Walmart, for heaven's sakes. People don't want it. You would pay dividends in public relations if you go along with a plan like Terry Knapp advocated. Thank you.
Dr. Lathan, your response to the public comments, please.
Yes, Ms. Johnson, if you would see Mr. Copeland, he has some options available for you. He's standing over to your right. Yes, ma'am, if you could go with him, he's going to discuss your options with you. Also, just a reminder as it relates to choice and no child left behind, parents made an option. They exercised the right that they are entitled to under federal law to move their children to another school. They exercised that right with the understanding that their children would be traveling by bus, whether it's 30 minutes to 45 minutes. We're already, based on a previous order from many years ago, busing students from one region of the district to the other. But parents made that choice. We did not force it on them, but we did provide them the information that they were entitled to. As it relates to the renovations and the minor improvements that we have made around here, I know the building committee, previous building committee members are around the table. Yes, these are the chairs that we purchased, so they are being used by the district staff. Have a board member that was here for over 30 years. We did change out the orange carpet that was here probably 30, how many years ago? 34 years ago, and we've made some changes. This is an organization that brings many visitors into this building, in this facility here, and also upstairs, and so we do want to make sure that we have a presentable place. We do not have the type of furniture that you would find in some of the top Fortune 500 companies, but we did make those purchases with the understanding and support of the board, so there were no policies violated when we did that. Matter of fact, the goal, based on what the building committee told me, is to make sure that we change the front office area when you walk into the building, get rid of the old Greyhound bus station look. And those of you who go into the front office when you come in the front doors of Wisconsin, we did change out doors. We've talked about that in previous meetings, so we changed the back doors here and also the front doors. And we've painted. We painted this room probably, 3 years ago. So we are making some minor changes, but we're also focusing on our schools. And I have many principals here tonight that can tell you we took nothing away from the schools to make the small changes. And in fact, you'll see you have 2 different sets of colored chairs in this particular building. The blue chairs that you're sitting on came from a school that was closed, and these tan chairs up here have been here, and yes, eventually we would like to replace those. So that's coming next as it relates to changes. Also, we are being streamed live, including the public comments tonight, so they are being streamed. Hopefully there's not an issue there with technology, but those comments are being streamed live. I think I've hit all of the areas. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. let's move on to the information items, and I believe, Dr. Lathan, you requested to do the remarkable rule number 2 first. Is that correct?
Right, we'd like to do the professional development update first, and then we'll follow the school safety overview, and then the update to the opening of the school year. So the professional development update, Dr. Kennedy. We took Chris out of the room. While she's transitioning to that, let me give the opening of school update. We'll keep it moving. So for the first day of school, it's scheduled for Monday, August the 19th. We will be welcoming back over 14,000 students. It is a full day for students in the district and also staff. Parents should have received on July 26th or 27th a back-to-school packet. In that packet was information from the superintendent, also from the principals, individual information that is related to uniforms, campus learning, and family access. Transportation update, we are ready. We will be running 122 routes as it relates to transportation this year.
Tons of buses out.
Tons of buses. They're doing their dry runs, and then Wednesday will be the real run. So we'll look at that. Right now, we're still 3 drivers short, but we are still contracting with First Student. But we'll continue to recruit drivers. Some of our recruitment efforts have been job fairs, Backpack Peoria, television commercials on 31, Fox 43, 25, and 19, radio commercials, PJ Star ads, tables at the mall on Saturdays, internet advertisement, banners on buses. So we're continuously looking for drivers. We've encouraged our principals to put that information in their newsletters. Also, we have information centers at the Northwoods Mall and also the transportation centers if parents want to know what bus numbers their students are riding this year. We also have a call center, 693-4418. Parents can call. Please have your student ID number, and we can provide that information to you. As of today, we have 2,506 employees. We currently have 25 teacher vacancies. Our all-staff meeting will be held this Thursday, August the 15th at Bradley from 8 to 10. It is a staff meeting. Our keynote speaker will be Ms. Rebecca Ryan. Rebecca's a best-selling author, futurist. She's been called a voice for the next generation. Her latest book includes Regeneration, a manifesto for America's future leaders, and Live First, Work Second, getting inside of the head of the next generation. Once again, we're excited about our school opening. Our schools that are receiving additional students as a result of No Child Left Behind. Supplies have been ordered. Most of those schools, if I'm not mistaken, are fully staffed. I think we still have a 0.5 position that we need to staff at Keller as it relates to special education. The portable classrooms are being delivered. I think one was delivered today. The other one will arrive tomorrow. We will be ready on August the 19th. It will be a positive day. Every student, based on their assignment, that is their home school. And so our staff are ready to be professionals and to welcome our children, and they are not, please don't refer to them as inner city children, and please make sure staff don't do that or other community members. But we're gonna have a great day on August the 19th. Meet me at the bus stop or meet me out at a school if you would like. Dr. Kennedy.
Thank you.
Good evening, Board President, Mr. Claude, and board members. I am excited to be here. This summer, we had over 223 teachers participate in professional development. They went through AVID, science, math, ELA, Paxton Patterson labs, the 3 labs that we have with Paxton Patterson, Pinpoint, Advanced Placement, and International Baccalaureate. We have several people here to present, and I'm going to start with AVID. You're familiar with AVID, Advancement via Individual Determination. We registered 63 teachers that attended the Summer Institute in Indianapolis. But what was really different this year, we brought on an elementary piece of AVID, and they participated in the Strand Foundations. The elementary piece we're going to put at Franklin Primary, Harrison Community Learning Center, and Lincoln K-8, and we'll continue with the secondary programs at Peoria High, Richwoods, Manual, and Lincoln. Avid Elementary, I'll give you a little background on Avid Elementary. It encompasses Wicker, which is writing, inquiry, collaboration, organization, and reading. It addresses the foundational years of education when students are just beginning to learn, and it is embedded throughout the whole school. It is not an elective classroom. The strategies are germane to every class in the school. There are 4 essentials. Essential 1 is instruction, which actually does the Wicker. The culture, the whole school is advertised, as we like to use that term. Oops, did I turn it off? The essential 3 is leadership. All of the principals are involved with AVID. They make sure everything is done with fidelity. And then the systems, which is the essential 4, which embraces accountability, articulation, assessment, and not collaboration, but calibration to make sure that everything is implemented with fidelity. We have several presenters that attended the Summer Institute, and I'll leave this up so they'll know when to come up. Harrison Community Learning Center is represented by Fabian Daniels, and I'm going to say your name wrong. Chetney Cobb, Franklin Primary, Ann Bond, Trina Rodriguez, and Lincoln K-8, Ursula Brown, Teresito Lozano, and Crystal Manis. And Ursula will also talk about the secondary program.
Good evening. My name is Fabian Daniels. I'm one of the new assistant principals at Harrison Community Learning Center. And we would like to present to you just one of the materials that we gained at our AVID training. And it's just a little handout to pass to you for you can keep as your reference as we go through what we would like to present to you. Thank you, Dr. Kennedy. As Dr. Kennedy already explained to you, that AVID stands for Advancement Via Individual Determination. And we do have a double bubble, one of our thinking maps to present to you if you can see it. It aligns Peoria District 150 mission and vision as well as AVID's mission. And the things that they have in common as we went through this was both of the missions are preparing our students for college readiness. We're preparing our students to be productive citizens. We focus on the academics and personal achievement, and also we're inspiring our students throughout District 150 and as we implement AVID. We also look at how we see success, how it will look in District 150, and that stems from making sure the relationships between the board members, the superintendent, the administrations, teachers, parents, and students, we are on the same page to make sure that our students are ready for college, and that means the implementation of AVID at Harrison. We are excited at Harrison about the implementation of this, and we'll be doing this by making sure that we have our student agenda planners, which I have a copy here for you. Homework folders will be organized. We will be doing plan checks, there will be incentives involved to make sure that our students are actually utilizing the planners, and teachers are following through to make sure that the students are taking these home and parents are seeing these. We have, at Harrison this year, we have our streets and our quads named after universities. North Carolina A&T University, Stanford, Bradley, ISU, Harvard. We are just excited. Stanford, and also Eastern, Northern, Western, and Southern as well, just to name a few. We would plan on field trips for our students and also do note-taking. I will not take up all the time. I will let Mrs. Cobb speak to you as well.
The first thing we decided to do upon getting back to the school year was to implement the note-taking into our curriculum, and the first subject we're going to use is science. And it will be the 2-column notes. You have the Cornell notes, which is for higher level, but the 2-column notes, we think that that would be the best way to begin the program and start with it. We're also going to, day one, student planners and homework folders for our students to get those organization skills on track. That's it.
Can you also talk about your professional development from today? Because you also participated.
Yes.
Oh, are we doing this?
You want to share?
We
Yeah.
also coming to Harrison. Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay. Elite. We have Elite in our building now. So actually, listening to Mr. Cannon, a lot of Elite's vision and statements align with the district statements, our statements, Avid, so it's all going to tie in together. That's another like organization we can use, and I'm at loss for words. Go. A program we can use to help our students.
How are staff feeling about Elite being in the building this year?
I didn't hear you.
How are staff members feeling about Elite? What did you gather today based on your previous experience and then the event today where you were down at the Gateway building planning and getting prepared for Elite to be at the school?
Myself, I'm excited about it. I think it's a wonderful program. The role model ethic and part of the program, I think, will help a lot with our student population. Once the kids see that people do care about them, they love them, somebody is there to talk to them, somebody's there to work with their issues and work with them, I think that'll bring a different side to Harrison.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Ann Bond, and I'm the principal at Franklin Primary School. I had the opportunity to spend my first official day as Franklin principal at AVID training. I attended the training with my 4th and 5th grade teams. We spent some of our time training as a Franklin site team, and then other parts of my time was spent training with administrators from District 150 and across the Midwest. The training I received with other administrators focused not only on the philosophy and history behind AVID and the various components of AVID, but also on giving me the knowledge, skills, and resources so that I, as the instructional leader, can do several different things, and I'll just tell you a few of them. I learned how to support the Franklin site team because this is our first year of implementing this in our school. Even though only our 4th and 5th grade teachers actually attended the training, I learned how I can help create and sustain a school-wide culture of college readiness and the belief that all students not only can, but will succeed. And I think that's evidenced a little bit in the people that are here with me. They weren't, just a couple of them were actually with us at the training. So we're already starting to, as a school, embrace this. Also learned how to connect with our families and community partners about AVID because, again, this is a community-wide effort. So those are just a few of the things that I learned, but now we're moving into the most important part, which is making it happen and actually doing it. So I'm going to hand this off to one of our 4th grade teachers, Miss Trina Rodriguez, and she will, where is she? She's hiding, and she was going to stand next to me with Illinois Central College sunglasses on, but she decided not to go that route. But I am going to hand it off to her, but before I do that, I just want to brag real fast and say that the Franklin AVID site team and the Franklin team, period, is absolutely amazing, and they are embracing this. We met today. They met on their own time. They're making brochures. Here's a sample. They're Franklinizing it. PowerPoint for Institute Day. We're having a family back-to-school picnic on Sunday, and they've planned this whole big thing of how to introduce AVID to our families that day. You're welcome to come, by the way. It's 2 to 4 o'clock Sunday on the playground. And just a variety of things. So Trina can talk a little bit more about that. So thank you. Thank you for the opportunity for this, and thank you to the Franklin team for embracing this. I think you're going to see great, great things out of Franklin this year.
Hello, I'm Trina. Just to let you know, this morning even we got started at 9:30. We got everybody to come in, and we put together our goals already for AVID, and a lot of that is focused on organization, the different types of questioning, and the note-taking, which, just to give you a little background, the foundation of elementary, Avid Elementary, is the note-taking and teaching students how to properly take notes, how to look back at them, how to study them, and whatnot. And one thing I wanted to point out that I thought was most interesting is during the training, they had asked all of us when we learned how to take notes. And a majority of us raised our hand in college, and it's kind of sad. And then I'd say about 5 or 6 people didn't even, have that opportunity to learn to take notes. They just figured it out on their own. So, the big foundation for this, again, like I said, is the note-taking part and learning how to, again, go back, share them with the other students. The collaboration part is very important and whatnot. So we are going to get into that right off the bat, day one, and we're going to try to implement that in math first, and then, of course, go across all subjects. But in terms of this college promotion, we're pretty pumped up about that. I have a feeling we might have some silly days where I wear my sunglasses that promote ICC. And then I know a lot of the teachers are going to be bringing in pictures of themselves, in their cap and gowns, and some of them with their own children graduating college, and just kind of letting the kids know that if they become these determined learners, which is what we want, that, they can be successful and they have every opportunity just like we did. That's it.
Good evening. I'm Ursula Brown, the principal at Lincoln K-8, and with me I have my interventionist, Crystal Monis, who will talk to you about the elementary piece of Abbott.
Hi. So I attended the conference and I went through the foundations sessions, and it was my first experience with Avid. I really didn't have any idea what it was, even though I had heard about it in the middle school. But I'm really excited to bring what I learned back to our primary teachers. We plan to start really heavily on day one with 3rd and 4th grade, and I really want to focus on encouraging teachers to build that positive classroom environment that really focus on college readiness and building strong relationships with their students. And then the other part that I feel really strongly about is the organizational piece. In our sessions, we learned a lot about the importance of teaching kids organizational skills, because oftentimes they don't get that on their own. So I'm really excited to get started with the teachers on starting with kind of those two key points to begin with.
The middle school has had Abbott for about a year and a half. We took about a half of a semester to plan, and then we implement it. We've had quite a bit of success with the program. This is voluntary, so students have to decide that they want to be a part of it. They come in, they're interviewed by about 5 staff members, and then a decision is made whether or not they get into the program. The first year, we had to put a couple kids out because they didn't take us seriously, but from then on, we have had a lot of success with it. Students take this as a very important part of their education. We have seen all of our students who are participating in Abbott, their grades have increased, they come to school more, their achievement scores have gone up, so we know that we're being successful. We take quite a bit of our Title I funds, and we have spent it to provide all of our students. Last year, 6th through 8th grade went on a college visit. This year, with our primary piece, one of our plans is to not only have some of our primary students go on a college visit, but also to have their parents go with them. So we're encouraging that, because we feel if we get the parents involved and they see what is out there for their children, we'll get more support that way. We will do a school-wide implementation. And when we do our acceptance with our students, it's a big deal, so we have a reception for them every year that we do this. And last year we had about 89 students who applied for the program. We have increased in 7th grade to 2 classes instead of 1. So we have over 100 kids right now participating in the program, various stages. And teachers who are teaching it are very excited about it, because, again, they have seen what it has done for our students, which is to build their confidence and to think that they can go to college. And just for some of them, just being on a college campus and getting to visit a field house or visit a dorm, that is all it takes to get them hooked. So we do whatever
whatever we can to try to get them excited about it, and hoping that that will move on to some of our other students who may not be as involved in school. But we have seen a lot of success with the program, and we will continue to try to implement it across the school. Thank you.
And even though they're not on the program, I really would like for Cassandra Duncan to come up. She is the Avid site teacher at Peoria High, as well as Tanya Jenkins, to also come up and just share their experience at the Summer Institute also. And Julie, she's sitting back there too.
All right, I'm good. I didn't know I was coming up to talk about Avid. I was here for AP. My name is Cassandra Duncan. I'm the elective teacher and site coordinator at Peoria High School. This is our third year having Avid at Peoria High, and it has changed how we teach in our building. It's wonderful. This year we begged to send more people to summer training. We had 13 people go. We're looking at having 25% or more of our building trained in Avid, which is phenomenal. Cornell Notes are throughout the building, active reading strategies are throughout the building, and you can see it picking up pace and moving on and on. And it's wonderful to see all the elementary schools coming up with Avid and integrating those, and I had the opportunity to touch base with Ann Bond, and we're gonna kind of get together and see how we can kind of collaborate and have our Avid students at the high school level talking to those elementary students and kind of encouraging them to continue with this wonderful program. And we also had the opportunity to take our students on 2 overnight college visits this year. We took our kids to the University of Missouri at Columbia. They had a wonderful time, took a campus tour, talked to the provost for admissions. And then we also took our students to Southern Illinois University. And we read Wes Moore's book. I don't know if you've ever read it. It's phenomenal. And our kids got to go to Eureka College and see him speak and meet him, which is fabulous. I can't say enough about the program. Thank you.
Good evening. I am Tanya Jenkins, the principal at Manual Academy, and I also would like to just echo what my colleagues and teachers have been saying about the Avid program. At Manual, we have expanded our program as well. We started at the 8th grade. We have 2 sections, moving that up to 9th and also 10th grade this year, and having 2 sections in each of those grade levels. And we also this year added our AP, our advanced placement teachers, to the equation, so that they're able to see how the strategies and system works seamlessly for the advanced placement students. So we are adding that segment in as well. We also took our students to Eureka and read the book Wes Moore. So there are a lot of things that are paralleling what we're doing in our schools to help students understand that college readiness is what is a district initiative, but even more importantly, it is a life initiative. And so one of the things that we're very working very difficult, very systemically on is making sure that we make this a school-wide process and not just for the Avid students. So we as well have over 100 students that are going to be involved in this program, and again doing the interviews and making sure students understand. But the even bigger thing that I'm seeing in the school is as we work on our culture, which is one of the legs that Dr. Kennedy talked about, was that it helps to change the culture. Students are understanding to take their work seriously, to learn how to think critically and how to ask those questions. So you see a lot of that happening when they do their tutorials and when they start to put together just who they are as a student. So we're really starting to see that take hold, and we also at Manual Academy say thank you for this program, and we'll make sure that it's successful this year.
Julie Gillis, principal at Harrison. I was excited to go this year. This was actually my 3rd summer going for the Avid training, but was different this year. I got to go for the elementary piece. The last 2 years I went for middle school training, so this year I kind of started over, going back into the first session for elementary, but it was wonderful to see how that connects with the middle school piece. So I can now go back to the building and make that nice transition. We're starting with our 4th grade, but we'll be able to make that smooth transition into the middle school since I've been to those other trainings as well. we already talked about the street names, how we're collaborating the elite piece and with the Avid piece with our street names in our building all being university names. We have the higher expectation, the rigor. I talked with my staff today about the rigor training, or just rigor and expecting more out of your students. For example, we can do this with you guys too. Everybody raise your hand. Now raise that higher. That's the expectation I have for them with the students. Go that extra bit, ask more from them. So we're excited. Our site team got off to a great start. We got our yearly plan mapped out while we were there. So we're excited to get everybody on board and continue it further. Thank you.
As you can see, eventually this whole district will be advertised. Okay, now we're going to talk about math, and I'm going to bring Susan Gobine, our new math literacy, our math and science coordinator.
Oh, keep this, yeah. Okay. And then I'll introduce him. Okay. Yes, yes. Hi, welcome, everybody. It's an exciting time to be a math educator in the district. It's so great. We had some great opportunities for work in the area of mathematics over the summer. You can see pinpoint lesson development and downloading. That is a really, really important piece, and I'm excited for the teachers to get into Pinpoint and see what a group of over 30 teachers work together to develop lessons and download them into Pinpoint for use throughout the school year. So that's an exciting piece. We also had Carnegie Learning Bridge to Algebra. We've had this in the district in the past, but they've revamped it to more closely align it with Common Core, and so we had some teachers receive that training as well. Texas Instruments Math Forward. We had a cohort of 20 teachers last year go through the training, and they received equipment dealing with Math Forward, and we have 20 new teachers who are going to go through the training and receive equipment as well. Bradley University, it's always great when we can partner with Bradley University in the STEM education program, and 25 of our teachers were just finishing a year-long professional development with Bradley in the STEM program on math inquiry, and that's really a great opportunity. And then one of our last professional developments of the summer, Tina Johnson, a retired teacher from the district, she gave 2 wonderful days on early numeracy, and I have brought with me teachers that have attended all of those, and they can give you a little bit more detail on these. But the first pinpoint lesson development, one of the most instrumental people in this, and she's worked with the last 2 years, is Jennifer Jacobs from Roosevelt.
Hi. If you guys were all kids, I could totally do this off the cuff, but you're not, so. Work completed by committees during the academic year last year solidified the correlation between District 150's mathematics curriculum and the Common Core standards. Careful thought was put into narrowing each grade's focus so that instructional time may be spent digging deeper, rather than having a super wide and shallow focus, making sure we're narrow and so we can go deep. Grade level expectations and ICANN statements were revised and 4-quarter plans were reorganized, ensuring that our focus is where the standards focus and creating a solid foundation on which to build. This summer then, dozens of math teachers, I think Susan said about 30 of us, it felt like more, that this room was packed. We came together under Trish and Susan's guidance, and we literally packed Pinpoint with lesson plans and other resources that align to Common Core and address the standards for mathematical practice. These lesson plans and resources, they focus on the major work of each grade and promote conceptual understanding, a high degree of procedural skill and fluency, and application. Lessons were either written or chosen with an eye to providing students with opportunities to reason, argue, and model as they make sense of problems and persevere in solving them. It was really nice to have all grade levels represented because then we were able to ensure that there's coherent progression from grade to grade, which is a really important part of Common Core. It was a pretty awesome thing to see so many teachers intently working towards the same goal. There were people typing, tapping, scanning, searching, attaching, debating. Even more awesome was that by the end of the week, having had all this take place, we had ensured that all math teachers throughout the district have access to the same high-quality resources. This, in turn, should enable all students across the district to experience a consistently focused, coherent, and rigorous mathematics education. As time passes, teachers will be more and more able to count on their incoming students having a deep conceptual understanding of core concepts from previous years, rather than feeling at the start of the year, okay, we have to reteach. And just think of the remarkable strides we can make then.
Next up is Tom Jakowski, also from Roosevelt. He was one of the 25 participants in the Bradley STEM Education Initiative, and he also attended the Math Forward training, so he's going to speak about those two works.
The first one I want to talk about is the math inquiry. It was called Whip Forward to all of us who were in it, and actually it was run by some Bradley professors and some District 150 employees, myself included, were brought on as consultants to actually go through it. And the first year we just consulted, but in the second year we actually became more as the teacher leaders. That was one of the big important parts of the program. So we did a lot of dealing with teacher leadership, going through different modules on how to build them better. We also had a main focus on the TI Inspire calculators, which with the Math Forward, what we're also doing. We also looked at Common Core standards and the next generation science standards as soon as they came out. We were able to do a lot of different activities dealing with the calculators and also probes, which Bradley now has an abundance of that we can use as a checkout program. So they're working on getting with us as District 150 and being able to have a checkout program where District 150 teachers can go to Bradley to pick out some of these different probes that we currently don't have in our inventory. We are also able to utilize the new Lakeview Planetarium and Lakeview Museum down, as well as visit the Challenger Museum in Bloomington at Heartland Community College. So it was a great opportunity for District 150 teachers, 5th through 12th grade. They actually made some presentations. We don't have those available, but they made some presentations for you. So contact Bob Wolf, he'll get those for you. Also the TI Math Forward, like she said, we're having a new cohort for that. It's a great opportunity for us to work with the new calculators and try to get them involved. Not only work as a cohort, but also work with TI consultants so we can do lesson planning, and then have time to actually get those calculators in our kids' hands on day one. That was the first thing he said to us, so that they can use them the way they need to. Thank you.
Under my predecessor, Dr. Guiney, early numeracy has been a real big push in the district, and we wanted to continue that with some training this summer. The early numeracy project that we did with Tina Johnson was fabulous. I attended it just because I was interested, and it was great, and we got to play with lots of math tools and learn how to conceptually develop place value. And Julie Nelson was an enthusiastic participant, and so that's why I brought her here to talk about it a little bit. She's from Thomas Jefferson. Julie.
Hello, my name is Julie Nelson, and I teach 2nd grade at Thomas Jefferson Primary. I am entering my 31st year. I am here tonight to tell you about the great PD I attended last week with retired teacher Tina Johnson. These 2 days were amazing and full of great ideas. Yes, even after 31 years, I'm still wanting to get new and improved ideas to help my students understand math. These workshops not only did help enforce that I am doing great things in my classroom with math, but also helped me keep learning alive in my classroom. Tina talked about number sense and using our 10 frame as a base or building block. We worked on reinforcing skills such as subitizing, place value, arrow cards, and using our reckon racks, and using our 5, 10, 20, or 100 bead strings. Tina gave us many hands-on activities, and just like my students, I learned by doing and participating. We saw videos of students actually at workstations using all the activities we talked about. It was great to see students actually using these activities. These 2 days were full of information that got my enthusiasm reignited all over again. I will use many, if not all, of the activities which were done in these 2 days. I already have my place value arrow cards and a pocket chart ready to go, 10 frames ready for subitizing drills, and workstations ready to go. The only disappointment I had with these amazing 2 days was that I still have to wait one more week to get these activities going. I was ready to show students the minute I left the workshops. I can't wait to see a second grader's face light up when they get that aha moment and understand why and how they came up with their answers. I can't wait for student talk and student-led activities. Tina reinforced what I know, but sometimes forget, that students love learning from each other. They are sometimes each other's best teacher. I want to close by thanking you for offering these opportunities to help us grow as educators. Yes, even after 31 years, I'm always excited about learning, just like my students.
And last but not least, Holly Sela. She's from Peoria High School. And on our journey towards college and career readiness, algebra is one of those pieces. And the Bridge to Algebra Carnegie Learning Program is one that's going to get some of our students there. So I'd like to bring Holly up to talk about her experience.
Good evening. When I first got a hold of the Carnegie program a couple of years ago, I was just kind of like, oh, thank God it's a math program that makes sense, because math is really not my thing. When I got to go to this training, I was excited because I found out there was a lot of changes that had been made to the program, and I thought it was so good, I don't know what they could do to make it any better. When I started looking at some of the changes, I was so excited with the new changes. I thought Susan was going to kick me out of the training because I just couldn't sit still. The new changes to the online program is so student-friendly, and it just pushes them to be more than who they are. It makes them want to compete with themselves and keep track of where they are in their math education. It makes them take ownership of their own program, and there's so much connection to the Common Core standards with the writing and the public speaking and having to reason and think things through, and it's not just plug and chug your way through the math. It's here's how I did it and here's how I got to that process and what I was thinking about. And it's very student focused and student learning, but it also gives me the chance to kind of sit back and let them do it and figure their way through it, which is very important, especially with the kids that I work with on a daily basis, because they don't always get that success, and this program really gives them an opportunity to say, hey, I can do this. And I really like the program, and I'm thrilled. I can't wait. And I'm just like she was. I wanted to go right then and there, even though I had no lesson plans, I had no computers, I had no kids. I wanted right now. And I'm pretty sure that I promised Mr. Elliott I would detail his car every week if he would get me what I needed to teach the program the way I wanted to teach it. But I'm really very excited about it because I live for those aha moments with my kids, and I know that when they get into this and they can tear it apart and look at it, that these kids that have not always had success can take at least one page from this curriculum and the new things that they have with it and go, I can do this. And I did it on my own. So I'm thrilled to start this year with the new updates on this program, and I'm just, I can't wait. And it's only on Monday, and I'm just excited. So thank you.
Holly, if you're missing anything, you let us know what you need, okay?
Thank you, ma'am.
All
Quit.
right. She needs what?
I said quit doing that.
I know Dr. Kenny's going to get me afterwards, but you tell us what you need, okay?
And before we move on to our next program, I'd really like to welcome Susan Gobine to our department, the curriculum department. When she was hired, she went on a vacation to Hawaii, but when she came back full swing right into the program. So thank you, Susan. Our next group of presenters will talk about Paxton Patterson. And we currently have 3 of their labs, and actually more than 3. We have 3 that we'll talk about. The health science education, which has 17 career instructional units, the Growing Up Ready Lab, and the Action Lab. The Action Lab is a STEM program, and we have a full Action Lab at Washington Gifted. And we have 6 of the modules that will be at Roosevelt. Our presenters, like I said, Washington has an action lab, Rolling Acres has parts of an action lab, Woodruff has the Growing Up Ready and the health science education, and Roosevelt has a part of an action lab, and then Harrison Community Learning Center has Growing Up Ready. And those are we had 7 teachers go to North Carolina and Ohio, and 3 administrators to go to North Carolina for training. So we're really excited about the program, especially with the 2 action labs, because that satisfies our STEM requirement for the Race to the Top. So we'll start with David Pose from Washington Gifted.
Good evening. I'd like to introduce Bob Weinrich, also one of our teachers who is going to make this program work. And again, Mr. Cloyd, Dr. Lathan, Dr. Kennedy, board members, once again, thank you again for your commitment to the things we're doing at Washington. It's a great program. And going out to North Carolina, it was a fantastic opportunity to see how things work there. I don't fold up very well on airplanes, so this was worth it. Usually, during the summer, if I can't tow it, I don't usually go, but this was worth it. So, again, this was a fantastic program. We got to see some things. We're excited about what's happening at Washington and some of the other labs, too. We got an opportunity to see 14 computer-based modules, and that's what's happening at Washington. We're really excited about, we've got the room ready, things are being installed. As we speak, just every day I go past it, and I think the kids are going to love this. And we're getting lots of families asking about it, and again, emphasizing just the appreciation on behalf of them of the commitment to the Washington community. Again, the students are going to be guided by a computer tutorial, which is, again, to see it in action is something else. The software is going to schedule the students' modules. What happens is that in this plan, from what I can see and what's happening, there'll be kids partnered up, which again is another opportunity for them to learn from each other. There'll be 10 different modules, 10 one-hour sessions, so they go through in 2 weeks. And again, going through the semester program, and then we flip, so we'll have all 7th and 8th grade going through this. So again, there's 14 active labs going on all at once, different things happening. So it's really we're really excited about it. I see some of the strengths, and Bob and I have talked about this. I'm going to have him talk a little bit more about what he got to do during his training. The individualized instruction certainly is a big plus. It's self-paced. The topics are interesting. The content is a challenge. It's certainly an enrichment of the things that we're doing already at Washington, and we're really excited about that. It's hands-on, and as Bob can explain in a second, the teacher becomes more a facilitator of the learning, not certainly just the one that's guiding it. So we look forward to that. Also, the opportunity to blend using the STEM room now as a rotating schedule to enhance the science fusion curriculum that's already in place is going to be a great idea, and certainly evaluating it to students' abilities. So again, we're looking at implementing this 7th and 8th grade each semester, and then we rotate them, so we'll have a maximum exposure, and then of course evaluating this year and expanding it to our 6th grade. Bob is going to explain some of the things that he saw in the training, and every time I saw him, he was busy. So, Bob?
Good evening, and thank you very much for this program, and thank you for the training. It certainly built my confidence to feel like I can hit the ground running here in a week. The first thing that impressed me about the program was it's very hands-on, it's very active. A classroom is going to be very busy, and the students are not all doing the same thing at once. They're all active, doing their own thing, directing themselves, and I, as a teacher, am going to have to learn to back away and just facilitate and support them instead of guiding and directing them and telling them what to do. And that's a good thing for students to learn. Just a challenging thing for me to learn. Over half my time was spent learning the administrative side, the software that comes with this program. This software helps schedule the students into the programs and into the modules that they're going to be working on. It does help with some of the assessment and recording of that assessment. So it's very critical that I understand what's going on within the software, and was probably the most intimidating thing for me. I did get a lot of time to work with that and make contacts of who to call when I'm in trouble. I also had the opportunity to work through the modules and see what it is the students are going to do. So very busy week, very productive, and very, very useful. So thank you very much. Good evening. Thank you for this opportunity, Board President Cloyd, members of the board, Dr. Lathan, for this opportunity. We have the Growing Up Ready Lab as well as a STEM lab in our building, and our kids really, really enjoy being part of that Growing Up Ready Lab. We've had it for 3 years now, and this will be our 3rd year with it. And Mrs. Behrens, who will speak in just a moment, she was a full-time art teacher before I came to Rolling Acres. We made her part-time art, part-time Growing Up Ready, and then the 2nd year she asked to do full-time Growing Up Ready because she believed in the program so much. Kids really love going to the Paxton Lab. They love choosing their modules. When I walk through there to see them do the facilities maintenance or the parenting portion of the modules, the most favorite one for students is the math and the science in the kitchen, where they get to make things. I think I've eaten more Sloppy Joes, Scotcheroos, and apple muffins in the last couple of years than I ever had before. And I will tell you that it's a hands-on program where kids really learn with their hands, and students will quickly learn the difference between a teaspoon of salt and a tablespoon of salt when they're making Sloppy Joes. So we added this last year, the STEM portion of the lab, and Mrs. Behrens will speak to you on with that.
Good evening. My name is Carrie Behrens, and I have had the opportunity to teach in the Growing Up Ready, and as of January of this last year, we started the STEM modules. And it has been an incredibly exciting experience. Like Mr. Barber said, I was the art teacher before, and I was ready for something new and exciting. Not that art wasn't, but this is definitely constant. You are constantly on the move. The kids are very engaged with every 14 different modules going on at one time, 14 different learning experiences going on at one time. The STEM portion of this program, I was a little intimidated with. Some of them, not all of them. A lot of them I felt like I had a lot of background just with art. Who knew that you would use those skills with flight technology? But when you build a rocket, you need to know what you're doing when you're constructing it. So they're very challenging. I was a little nervous with electricity, pneumatics, mechanisms, those type of modules. So I actually, again, I begged as well to go back to training. I'd already been to training with the Growing Up Ready program, was very excited with that. Felt like I got a lot of hands-on experience in that training, and when I went back, same experience. It's a wonderful, wonderful program. I can't say enough about it, and it's really renewed my love of teaching. So thank you very much.
All right, now we're going to get into science. And I have Lori Ettinger, who's going to be our speaker. We had been working with this. I've been working with the science teachers all last year to actually align, to develop 4-quarter plans, pacing guides, and lesson plan activities, actually to import into Pinpoint. But it really worked really good because of the next generation science standards that were released in April. And I will let Lori talk now.
Okay, I'm Lori Ettinger from Manual Academy. This will be my 4th year in the district. Really excited to be here. Working under Dr. Kennedy, when I first got here, teaching science for 10 years, teaching with the Illinois state standards and realizing how low those standards actually were. They emphasized content, just what kids basically had to memorize and know. And that's what we were doing for basically the last 10 years, is just kind of teaching them what they need to know. Well, I look at these new standards as being what you call the 40-40-40. What do kids need to know in the next 40 days? What do kids need to know in the next 40 months that takes them to the next level? And what do they need to know for the next 40 years? Well, what we want to emphasize with these new standards or what they need to know for the next level, grade school to junior high to high school to college, and what they need to know for life. Well, to know what they need to know for the next 40 days, if you can click it twice when you're Googling, then that's very low level knowledge. So taking these standards, and I've been kind of dogging for the last couple of years, like knowing we had to update these 4-quarter plans that we'd been working with. They were kind of dusted off and handed over to us. Now, what we've been doing in this past year, we've been lucky enough to be able to collaborate across our own school. We were given the opportunity to have a prep period where just science teachers got to meet together. You know, we'd always meet together, but it would be before school, after school. We actually got time within our day to unify what chemistry teachers were doing in one building. This year, this past year, Dr. Kennedy allowed us the opportunity across the whole set of high schools. All 4 of us got together, 15 teachers. It was voluntary, but got together and we were able to collaborate and share what we do, activities. We even share tests. It's really important in a district like this when we have mobility. We have kids going to Woodruff and then bouncing back at our school and moving within the schools. To be able to be, well, I don't want to say on the same page, but kind of. We're actually doing the same type of topics. It helped double check our rigor to make sure what's being taught at one school is at the same level as what's being taught in another school. And just getting all together and being able to bounce back ideas. Also, I should say Dr. Kennedy provided us the opportunity, I was really excited, to be able, for the first time in my career, to go to a national conference. So 8 of us went to the National Science Teacher Association Conference in San Antonio. And that's the time that they kicked out the next generation science standards. So I went to every single session I could. I spent about 8 hours trying to just gather as much information as I could so I could bring it back to my group. And also on the STEM. Well, throughout this year that we collaborated, we've got our 4-quarter plans for our major core areas of science. I think we worked on about 6 areas of science. We're going to add the AP and IB this year. And then we began this summer, a group of us, to import the things into Pinpoint. To get trained on Pinpoint, the same day we're starting to put the things in. So we're really excited how this is going to work with our students to individualize learning. Well, we're kind of at a standstill right now. We're almost a little bit ahead, I think, of where our state is. Our state, we're a lead state in coming up with these standards, but they actually haven't fully been adopted yet. We know they will be. It takes about 6 months for things to get through our state, so we're anticipating October. And we're going to continue to push to take our 4-quarter plans and to kind of revamp them with the cross-cutting concepts, the 42 areas of the discipline, and the engineering principles. What's exciting about this is that college readiness will finally be aligned with the standards. So our kindergartners will actually be doing college readiness standards in each year it builds until 12th grade. So for the first time, we will be aligned and we will be able to see a result on our ACTs and their success for getting into college and success in college. So in October, we're already talking about going to the Illinois Science Teacher Association, where there's training for a day and a half just on these standards. You have to understand how these are so much different. It's like all of us who've been teaching, it's taking everything we've done in our careers and turning it upside down and redoing it. So we're all like first-year teachers with this. And we want to do it with integrity. We want to do it great. So as we go through this training, we will continue for the rest of this year. Putting the things in Pinpoint, like I said, we want everything to be in. And with how Pinpoint works is that it's very individual. So we might be teaching the same content, but the way we get there is a little bit different. But the expectation is the outcome is all the same. So we'll work on towards a district common assessment and we'll be looking forward to our new Illinois State Assessment for Science. So I'm excited to be part of this transformation, because with a transformation, it does take time, but it's happening in education. And I should say that these standards they incorporate the Common Core in English and in math. So Dr. Kennedy has been very supportive as she's leading the science program into the future. And we hope to continue professional development for these new standards as we prepare our new assessments and the ultimate success of our children. Thank you.
And I just want to add that Lori continued to work when the time was over. So, thank you. And now we will have English, language arts, and our literacy presenter, Shamika Sykes-Patterson. She also works when we should be stopping.
Good evening. At this time, I would like to present to you the summer professional development opportunities for English language arts and literacy. The first professional development that we held was the first week when teachers were out. Although they should have been rushing off to start their summer vacations, they were excited and rushing over to Woodruff Career and Tech Center on June 3rd through the 7th, and we had full day meetings all 5 days. And our goal was curriculum planning to align our current pacing guides and curriculum guides to Common Core state standards and to prepare resources for Pinpoint. In that session, grade level groups worked together representing all regions of the district to unpack standards, to then match those standards to match resources to the goal of the standard, and then to lastly align lessons to match to go into Pinpoint. So we had 3 different teams actually in that session. We had our ELA teachers, kindergarten through 12th grade. We had teachers to actually input. It was like a little mini factory. So it was the ELA factory we had going. So we had a group that would create the lessons, create the ideas, and they would pass it on to our Pinpoint team. It would go directly into Pinpoint. I would also like to mention with that group, there were over 60 teachers, so we filled up the commons areas at Woodruff, representing kindergarten through 12th grade, but we also had special education teachers and our English language learners educators as well. And our goal in that was to ensure that curriculum does reflect all students represented in the district and that all students have access to core curriculum and then best practices. Our next session we held July 16th through 18th at Glen Oak. Up to 60 teachers attended each day. Over 4 days, teachers had the opportunity to choose up to, by the end of the week, 12 sessions, so they could attend up to 4 sessions per day. Some of the sessions that we held to support our balanced literacy framework were implementing differentiated small group reading, and we held a session for kindergarten through 6th grade teachers, as well as our secondary 7th through 12th grade teachers. Our robust encounters with vocabulary, or with words, which is our vocabulary program, that was designed as a booster session for teachers to look again at different ways to implement the vocabulary program and think of different strategies as well. We had sessions for our phonics and phonemic awareness programs for our 95%, for core instruction, as well as strategies for implementing our Common Core standards, kindergarten through 12th grade, which included reading and writing strategies across the curriculum. And so what I have here, just a few snapshots of educators in action, as you see here. On the left-hand side, we have Anna Alvarez. She is a district interventionist, and this year she is at Whittier. And this group is actually a group of middle school teachers learning how to implement the small differentiated groups in the middle school classroom. I do want to point out in her session, she had this room at Glen Oak set up just like the teachers should plan to set up. So there were actually stations that the teachers could rotate through. There were charts up to give teachers an idea of what this actually looks like in the classroom upon implementation. I mentioned earlier booster sessions. On the left-hand side, Mr. James Rayner works with our buildings in implementation of reading mastery and corrective reading. And his goal in this session was to lead us forward in our year 3 of implementation by giving teachers strategies to extend implementation, which included questioning techniques and comprehension strategies, which support our Common Core standards as well. On the right-hand side, you'll see the agenda for our 95% group, and there were sessions for K4 as well as 5-6. And Ms. Bruns is also a district interventionist, and she is at Roosevelt, and she explained to teachers how to follow our district pacing guide and how to implement the phonics programs in their classroom. So as I mentioned before, in that first slide, you saw a district interventionist, and again in this slide, you see another district interventionist. In year 3, our goal is to grow capacity by using our district interventionists as well as our grade level literacy leaders. And so one of the major or very important components of each session was at the end of the session, we built in 10 to 20 minutes for in each of the sessions for participants to actually reflect upon new learning and to think about ways to implement the ideas right away. As educators, a lot of time we sit in conferences and we hear wonderful ideas, but we never have the time to really reflect upon how we will be able to implement or create an action plan. So each teacher walked away with an action plan. There were also interventionists in our group. And I will introduce now Ms. Marcy Steele, and she's an interventionist at Mark Bills, and she attended our 5th through 8th grade sessions.
I assume it's this one. Okay. Before I get started, I just want to point out that I wore a dress for you, Joni. Okay. My sister-in-law is in the room. She'll acknowledge that this never happens. Okay. So you're welcome. Okay. So before so yeah, that's over. All right, so I go to these sessions, and when I go to these sessions, I'm always trying to find some new ideas or to come up with some new ideas from what I'm hearing that can help our teachers in the areas where I know that they're not as comfortable, okay? So I have this lovely little District 150 journal. Thank you, Dr. Lathan, that I wrote down a bunch of my ideas in while I was there. So one of the first sessions I went to, I started to come up with some of these ideas. So, and I was realizing that the ideas that I was getting from these presenters, I could immediately take back to the teachers. Some of the things that I noticed that middle school teachers struggle with when it comes to implementing balanced literacy is really incorporating the collaborative piece. They can do the modeled reading pretty well. They can do the whole group reading, but then when it comes to that like differentiated reading where you're giving the kids individualized instruction with what they need and then setting up like the workstations, they're struggling with the ideas for those. So when I was in these sessions, that's what I was trying to come up with, and I think it skipped through one. Nope. Are these in the order that I sent them to you? I don't think they are. Okay. Well, there's one. We'll start with this one. So strategies for implementing the Common Core standards. That was one of the sessions we went to. I wanted this one to be last because this one was actually was my favorite one. Shamika gave us some text, and we were going through the text, and I was actually in a group with Miss Carrie Kleist over here for several of the things, and we were having some good conversations of trying to pick out tier 2 words, which are high frequency words that kids will have exposure to across the curriculum throughout school that aren't content specific. So these would be the words that we actually really want to teach our kids because it's going to help them in every content area, every grade level throughout school. And each teacher can be more deliberate about their specific vocab words for their content, but we really need to teach them the words that will improve their reading, their writing, and so forth. So we practiced doing that, and I found it interesting what a primary interventionist and teacher would pick up on versus a middle school versus a high school. So those conversations were very good. The other one that we did that I particularly liked is we practiced doing text-dependent questions, which is really big in the Common Core, where kids are going to read text and have to really be able to pick it apart and pick out what gives it its meaning and so forth. So Shamika gave us a poem that we looked at, and we came up with some questions, and then I'm going to brag on our group because we didn't just come up with one question like we were asked. We came up with 4 leveled questions. So we started with one and then realized we could kind of break it down further to have leveled questions so every kid in the room would feel successful. And those conversations that we were having while we were doing that are the conversations we're going to take back to our classrooms to make our teachers more comfortable with that. So that was my favorite one. I wanted to end with that, but that's okay. Okay, so one of the other sessions was the reading mastery and corrective reading. The main goal of that is for kids to improve their fluency and then their basic comprehension recall. But Mr. Rayner helped us practice what we called beefing up the discussion questions. It's a scripted program with basic recall. But we started to talk about how we could get our teachers to come up with higher order thinking questions, like making connections to other text, whether it be TV shows, life experiences, and then making predictions, and then checking their predictions as they read, so monitoring their own comprehension. Another one that I attended was the differentiated small reading group, which I think there were pictures. I was in one of those pictures wearing a cardinal jacket, not a dress, so you couldn't really see it was dark. That would have been more accurate. But so I think what the session was that time was, the example she gave us was dealing with different genres, specifically poetry that time. And as I was sitting there, the way she had the room set up, the ideas that she was sharing with us for primary, I was able to tweak a little bit so I can take back to our middle school teachers and come up with about 3 or 4 different stations geared just around poetry. And they're kind of, some right off the top of my head were listed there, where you could have a poem, cut it up, have it in a baggie, the kids pull it out, and they have to try to read and comprehend enough to sort what would be a logical sequence for a poem. Or you can give them a laminated poem with some markers to write on it, and depending on what the objective was of the direct instruction portion of that lesson that day, they could identify rhyme schemes, similes, metaphors, any kind of figurative language that had been the focus. And then there could be even another group where the kids were writing their own original poetry and so forth based on the other stations. So just sitting in those groups, although it might have been kind of set up to, like for a primary school, I was able to generate ideas that I immediately wrote down that we can take back to try to make it easier on our teachers, so that was beneficial. And then the last one was the robust vocabulary. I remember them specifically talking about the 6 different types of context clues, which I knew before I went in there, but as I was sitting there, I came up with some games that the kids could play that would make it more engaging for them. So this was one of the ideas that their session helped me think of. So there's kind of like a sample there where I would see little note cards and maybe a brown bag with rev words, and then there's point values next to the different context clues types. So it could be set up as a little game for kids at a station where they pull a word out of a bag, they work together to try to create their own original sentence with whichever type of context clue that they choose. The more complicated ones would earn them higher points, or it could be done whole group where they have whiteboards and so forth, and then they can share out the type of context clue they used and so forth. So there's many benefits to that. It could be increasing the kids' vernacular, obviously, practicing writing complex sentences, and just improving their reading comprehension, because by being more aware of the context clues and writing them themselves, they'll be able to read it better when they come across it. So, so just sitting there, I see these PD sessions that we have as pretty beneficial, because I only shared with you a few because some of the people already left, but they're like, make it fast, make it fast. So you got 4 ideas. So, but I had several pages of ideas. So, I appreciated the PD. My teachers will appreciate the PD, and so thank you.
Giving it twice.
What twice? Oh, you wanted me to speak twice? No, I'm just kidding.
Okay, now I'm going to bring up Shannon Marlin and Sandra Cantu to talk about what we've done with Pinpoint this summer. And I want to thank Shannon and welcome her to our department, who's going to be our new Pinpoint go-to person.
Hello. Well, you've heard a lot about Pinpoint tonight, so I don't have to let you know about the ELA math and science. They've kind of gone into a lot of detail, and I know we've been here for a little bit longer than we should have. What we've done since I've been on board, we've done a lot of data analysis, going into detail to get us ready for the analytics model. Which we have rolled out the analytics model already this summer to principals, our master trainers, and we will be rolling out the analytics models to the teachers in the fall. And it's some great, exciting, it's a model that I think our schools and teachers and staff, they're going to be proud of. And Sandy right here, she was one of the teachers that went through, actually a master trainer, interventionist. We just rolled that out last Tuesday and Wednesday. And she can tell you a little bit more about it, but just some exciting things for the district. You want to go into?
Sure, just real quick. Sometimes you want to drink of water and somebody winds up giving you a flash flood of information and you really don't need all that much. What's so neat about the analytics model is that's exactly what happens. Now that as I'm assisting Ms. Foreman, if she wants to know who are the top 5 offenders in our school for most referrals, I can find out real quick. If she wants to know the top 5 fifth graders that are having the most problem, if she wants to know if it's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday, or Friday that we're having the most problems. I'm going to be at Von Steuben this year. I wasn't there last year, but because of what I've already learned this week, I know that February was our lowest attendance month. We had a problem getting here in February. They were mostly excused. I know that too. So I know it probably was a cold issue. We're going to be talking about Clorox wipes in January so that we can adjust, our February attendance rates. As board members, you've bought Pinpoint. You had to see the vision. It's a great gift that you've given us. It's live now. It's live for all 14,000 of our students. Every one of our teachers can get on Pinpoint right now. If you have been teaching for several years, right now you can look at last year's data. You can see how many referrals you wrote, say in the month of October. You can also aggregate that data with the click of a button. And you can find out how many girls you sent to the office or how many boys. Do you have some inner biases? You can do some reflection of yourself. Did you send most of them because of cell phones or was it disobedience to authority? With attendance, with grades, and with discipline, what we can find out is so quick that, unlike Marcy, I always wear a dress, but I had to go ahead and get a Pinpoint outfit just because it is going to be so super simple to do this. It's amazing. It's here. Any questions as board members you need to know, your principals can tell you. We can tell you instantly. We don't have to do a big, long report anymore. It takes about 3 seconds. Thank you.
Good evening, Dr. Lathan, board members. This summer we also continued what we've been doing the last 3 years in order to grow our advanced placement program, and we continued to send more teachers to various areas in the country for advanced placement training. 12 teachers were trained this year from Manual Academy, Peoria High, and Richwoods. They were trained in either English language, English literature, psychology, chemistry, statistics, U.S. history, calculus, music theory, Spanish language, and studio art. So we're actually adding some courses at some of the schools. Tonight we have 2 teachers, one from Manual Academy, Miss Armstrong, and one from Peoria High, Miss Duncan, who will come forward and talk to you about their AP training and how they're going to use it in their common planning, not only just for the AP classes, but to share strategies with other teachers as well. Miss Armstrong?
Okay, bear with me. This is the first time I've ever done this, and my mind has changed a dozen times about what I would say when I got up here. I am very grateful for the training. The AP training is what AVID and everything is leading into. You're getting the kids ready at a lower level now, but at the high school level, we still have to take the kids that we have that did not have the benefit of AVID, that did not have all these hands-on learning labs and all these other things given to them. We learned some skills. We got to talk to the teachers that graded the AP exams. We got to teachers were in my class that have been teaching calculus for 9 years. I got some good hints from them. The big thing that I brought back from it was resources. If you get out there, the resources are there. There's all kinds of free things that our kids can access, and you know our kids can get access to the web. Whether they got it at home or not, they can get access. And they've got this concept that's called flipping your classroom. I know when I was younger, and I know it's got to be like that for a lot of our kids today, my mother had no clue. I got my mother her GED. I taught her. Kids get home, they understand it in class, and you've been in training. Some of these people that have went to these seminars and trainings have talked about they sit in the training and they get it and they get it, and if they don't have something right there right now, then it goes to waste. Well, the kids get there and they're in the class, and even if they're excited and they understand it when you're teaching it, they get home and they get the book out and they try and do it, and they're lost. And it just feels so hopeless. But we've got a lot of stuff that was given to us during the training, a lot of assets that I can use in my classroom that I can share with other teachers. There's a lot of free things out there for the iPads, and you can have Quizlet.com is one of the big things that we use with flashcards and everything already made, resources out there for teachers. We just got to make the teachers aware of it. I think that we need more training, and it not necessarily paid PD. This is, understand this is me, just me. I've not talked to teachers and got a consensus, but we all need these CDU units that we have to get to our next degree. Why not more of that training? Why is not more of that out there for teachers where they can do stuff to help their kids and get forward? The whole reason I got into education wasn't because I need a job. Okay, this is my third career. I love kids. I love helping kids. Some of us teachers, that's our biggest problem. We want to help them too much. So that's where I got to work a little harder. But there are resources out there. There's stuff for their iPhones. There's Khan Academy. I could give you a big long list. I'm not going to. It's late. But I think teachers just need to be made more aware of the resources. We've got good teachers out there. We've got older people like me that we didn't learn like some of the younger teachers. And we're a little scared. And I will tell you, my first day of AP training, I wanted to cry. I just wanted to cry. I just felt the unbearable I was lost. I was devastated. But the resources that we got during that week made me feel that I can do this and I can bring my kids with me. And I think that's what we need. We've got good teachers out there. We just got to reignite that spark that got them there in the first place.
Good evening again. I got to go to AP training in Virginia this summer. I attended advanced placement training for APS U.S. History. I was blessed to have an instructor with not only 20 years of experience in teaching the course, but who also serves as a member of the Test Development Committee and lead DBQ reader for the exam. So it's kind of like getting the training from the guy who taught and made the test. He knows all the answers. It was wonderful. I returned home with a multitude of daily resources to be able to use, quizzes, tests, hundreds of dollars in textbooks. They wouldn't fit in that airline carry-on bag. I had to buy a new bag for the resources. An established network of fellow AP US history teachers that I can call on when I'm struggling in my classroom. And most importantly, a much deeper understanding of the analytical reasoning and writing skills that are essential for successful completion on the AP exam. Those same reading and writing skills on the AP exam dovetail so well with the extended response that we've been doing at Peoria High School, so I'll be able to take those skills back to my colleagues in the social sciences department. I'm eager to translate the knowledge that I've gained into an increased passing rate on the APUSH exam. I can think of no better way to express my gratitude for that training, and I'd love to get to work. Thank you.
As you know, Rich Woods is already an authorized IB school, but our 4 schools are moving into the final stages of authorization this fall. This year we sent 12 teachers from Charter Oak, Tree Wind, Mark Beals, and Sterling to Atlanta, Georgia, and Austin, Texas. We also, to help the staff at Mark Beals and Sterling, because some of the necessary pieces towards authorization was they needed that collaboration time to be able to develop their unit. So when they entered school this fall, they would be able to hit the ground running. So in June, they spent 2 days with their team being able to plan together at their school so that they would have those materials ready. At Rich Woods, we have added IB Anthropology and IB Music this year. We also sent other teachers training for visual arts, theory of knowledge, chemistry, as that has changed, and we had a new teacher. So this evening, we have 2 folks who attended IB training, Ms. Rodriguez from Charter Oak to talk about her training, and Mr. Baumgartner, who also, well, he actually went for AP as well, but he also did IB, and he'll talk about IB tonight from Rich Woods.
Thank you, Armanda. Good evening. My name is Kathy Rodriguez, and I am the proud IB coordinator at Charter Oak IB Candidate School. This summer, I had the opportunity to attend an International Baccalaureate workshop in Atlanta, Georgia. My workshop provided instruction on assessment in the practice and philosophy of the IB Primary Years program. I was instructed on how assessment provides feedback to inform and support planning, teaching, and learning. We focused on topics such as perspectives on assessment, assessment practices, planning for effective assessment, and essential agreements for assessing, reporting, and recording data. I appreciated the way our workshop presenters modeled the IB philosophy throughout our training. We were expected to be thinkers, inquirers, risk takers at times, and always communicators. We were provided electronic materials, which included reproducible handouts to share in support of our PYP teachers at both Charter Oak and Tree Win. By the end of the workshop, I felt more comfortable creating essential components to our units. I had a better understanding of summative versus formative assessments, performance-based tasks, and will confidently be able to write an assessment policy, which is a requirement in the authorization process. As the IB coordinator of a primary school, I will continue to collaborate with the primary years IB coordinator at Tree Win, incorporating the information we received from our summer trainings. As well, the information from trainings will be shared in grade-level team meetings at Charter Oak as we continue to develop the IB units throughout the school year. I feel this workshop was extremely valuable. I didn't realize how much I needed to learn until I experienced the training. I thank you on behalf of myself and the PYP candidate schools I represent, both Charter Oak and Tree Win, for continuing to support our efforts in this exciting program as we progress on our journey to becoming authorized international baccalaureate schools. Thank you very much.
I think I'm the last one. All right. I'll try to just steal your time for a couple minutes. That new teacher she was talking about who was doing the AP and the IB thing, that's me. My name's Joe Baumgartner. I'm a chemistry teacher over at Richwoods High School. This is my 6th year in the district, and the reason I'm up here talking to you is because I was able to go to a training at the end of June in St. Petersburg, Florida, so that beats Atlanta, Georgia, in St. Petersburg for teaching IB chemistry. This is our second round of teaching IB chemistry at Richwoods, and it is a very different course than a lot of the other chemistry classes that are out there. I don't know about your chemistry classes you took, but for mine it was kind of like, it's just, there's so much content in chemistry, and so you just lecture and lecture, and you put all that information into their heads, and eventually their eyes glaze over, and then you let them like blow something up in a lab, and then you have to teach them more. It's just because there's so many learning objectives you have to get through. IB chemistry is certainly a lot different. They've really cut down the content that you need to know, and they've made it a much more student-centered experience where I'm up there kind of guiding them, and I'm teaching them the background knowledge, but most of it is just, we're teaching them how to be chemists. They're learning their things through experiments, and so it's a very lab-based course, and that's different than the way I learned in high school and in college, and different than a lot of the courses are set up. So I did need that training. It was very beneficial, and so I'm there to just make sure that they're going in the right direction, that they're making up labs on the right topics, and teaching them how to learn, and making sure that they don't mix the wrong chemicals together and burn their face off. Other than that, I'm just going to hit the highlights. The main things that we talked about, it's true. Modifying, there are a lot of chemistry labs out there, so just what can I do, learning how to change those labs so that the students are kind of developing the procedures more, and they're actually going through the process of it, and I'm not just giving them a cookie cutter lab where they just follow each step and they do it, where they're actually learning, and they're actually coming up with their own ideas. So you may have a classroom where every student in the classroom is doing a completely different lab, or every little lab group, they're just answering their own questions. The last little thing, there was lots of stuff I learned about, but it's getting late. The extended essay. To get a diploma through the IB program, you have to do a college-level research paper, and it's I mean, looking at the thing, it's junior, senior level college. I mean, it's a very high level research paper, and they can choose it on any topic that they've learned about over the course of their IB experience. And some of the braver ones actually choose chemistry to do that research project on. And so I learned quite a bit about how to help guide them through that process and pick hypotheses that they can actually develop, and how to find research and how to read some of that high-level research that's out there. I wanted to thank Vonda Johnson and Cindy Clark for giving me the opportunity to go, and thank you guys for giving me a chance to speak.
He was also one of the science teachers who worked this past year on developing the 4-quarter plans and the pacing guides for the content area in science. I'm going to leave you with this quote: "Who dares to teach must never cease to learn." And thank you to the board for allowing for continued professional development for our teachers and our principals and our staff. Thank you.
Ms. Wolfmeyer.
I just want to say I look forward to this meeting every year, hearing from the teachers, but I do think this one has been more entertaining than a lot of the ones in the past. It's always exciting to me to have the teachers come and talk to us about their professional development. It's one thing to listen to the administrators tell us the professional development that was offered, but to have you come and be so excited and so enthusiastic, it's great to see that you're bounced back over the summer and are ready to go for another year. But it's really great to hear from you. It's also great to hear how involved a lot of teachers have been in developing these programs and how we put them into the schools and into the classrooms. And all I can say is a lot of you, if you take a fraction of the enthusiasm back to your school that you've shown us tonight, we've got to have a great year this year. So thank you guys, all the teachers out there, for everything you do for us every day.
Other board members care to comment on this? Reverend Butler.
Yes, I just have a very quick comment. I want to say thank you to Dr. Lathan for her leadership. And in her leadership, she chose Dr. Kennedy to lead in chief curriculum. And from looking at the staff and the things that they're saying and where they're going, Dr. Kennedy, thank you so much for what has been your quick involvement with the district, but yet very impacting. And so I just believe that we as the board, continually as we support Dr. Lathan, that we support you and the rest of the staff that gave such wonderful presentations. We needed this as well to start off the school year, to know how our teachers are coming back, and it seems like they are ready. We just need to turn them loose to do what they need to and want to do. So thank you.
Good. Anyone else? Mr. Crawford.
I would just add that I appreciate the seriousness with which the teachers and principals and administrators take the seriousness with which they address professional development. We've had a lot of good laughs here tonight, but I think your seriousness towards these programs is demonstrated by your enthusiasm. It means that somebody reached you and you're going to take those skills back and go back and reach our kids. So we really appreciate that. And I would just continue to urge, as you come to the podium and present over the course of the year, or at this annual event where we get a professional development update, that you share with us the things that work and the things that don't, so that we can continue to provide the resources you need to succeed in your classrooms. And likewise, I would just thank Dr. Lathan and Dr. Kennedy, Rhonda, and Ms. Johnson. This is just a great synopsis that we get every year, and I really appreciate it as a board member. And the last thing I'll add is that I can see how the professional development fits into the entire culture and what we're trying to do within the district, which it all kind of comes together, which is nice for us to see as board members.
Thank you. Anyone else? I would just add that this is one of the most interesting and exciting meetings we have every year. And there's a bigger picture here emerging, and that is it's a combination of technology and training and collaboration. And it takes a long time to make changes in an organization of this size and scope. And it seems to me that these are the things that are starting to take root. Learning as an adult is just exciting. Maybe as a kid you were excited, but as an adult, it's doubly so. You wish sometimes the kids would get the sense of what they're missing if they don't feel that excitement. And it's obvious that the teachers that were here and the principals and the staff members that did that are excited. They're going to bring that energy into the classroom, and I'm very encouraged by that. I thank you for your time. I know this is something that you do during your summer. It's great that we can provide the resources to do that, but you still have to get on the airplane or get in the car and go and do that, and that's great. So thank you for your efforts, and I hope we continue to do this as a matter of just the way we build an organization. So with that, Ms. Kostick, yes.
I said I wasn't going to say anything.
But now you are.
But the thing that I see is the excitement, and that is so exhilarating. You keep that excitement and bring it into the classroom, and we have got to have a successful year. Thank you so much for your excitement and your enthusiasm as we move forward.
Thank you. With that, we'll move back to remarkable rule number 1, and I believe we have a school safety overview.
Yes, Chief Collins is going to come up. This past spring, Board Member Patel asked about the different safety drills. Also, we've reorganized our school safety department. And so Chief Collins is going to give us an overview of our zones as it relates to our 3 regions of the school district, and just share some information based on the board requests on the different safety drills that we conduct throughout the school year here in the district. Chief Collins.
Thank you, Dr. Lathan. And thank the board for allowing me the chance to come up here and give you a little update. I want to kind of brag on our unit because I think we're headed in the right direction. First of all, I want to introduce some of our new lieutenants. In every organization, especially paramilitary, there's a structure that you have to follow. And unlike the military, any type of security agency or anything like that, a police department, there's a structure that we follow. Part of this structure, and I think what would make, or what's going to make school safety a lot more successful, is to have one of the missing pieces, and that is to have a lieutenants on site that can assist us in helping us do our job. First of all, I want to introduce a 30-year veteran of the Peoria Police Department. He was also a juvenile officer with the Peoria Police Department, a liaison detective assigned to Manual High School, where he worked for quite some time. He was a Child Advocacy Center investigator for sexual abuse and child abuse. He was the former chief of police of the Henry Police Department and one of Peoria's first dare instructors, Bill Calbo. Welcome, Bill. As a matter of fact, there were 2 dare instructors. I was the first and Bill was the second. I had to let him know that. So, the next person I'm going to introduce is Lieutenant Danny Swain. Danny was a former Champaign County deputy. He served in the Air Force. He's a 30-year veteran of the Peoria Police Department. He was also in charge of the Peoria Police Tactical Unit, and he was the traffic and parking sergeant, also at one time in charge of the crossing guards, who we now have. Danny Swain. And I apologize. Calbo will be at Peoria High School. Danny will be at Manual High School. And the next person I'd like to introduce is Lieutenant Hoban. Lieutenant Hoban came from the Children's Home. He was a case manager. He also worked at Illinois Mentoring. He contracted and did work for Department of Children and Family Service. And he's starting in his 4th year with the district. And he's the new kid on the block, but I've never seen people take better notes, and very articulate and very good at working with kids down at day treatment, and that's part of the reason why I brought him on, because we're trying to change the focus of school safety, and he's a big part of that. He's going to help us out a lot, Officer or Lieutenant Hoban. And he will be at Richwoods. Now, if I can figure out how to work this thing, got it going. Our agenda for today, we'll discuss very little bit about the organizational chart, a little bit about the zone lieutenant's duties, the new evaluation form for the school resource officers, and I bet you're wondering why we put up pepper spray, but I'll explain that to you. But it's very, very important that we address this issue. The biggest thing I think we're going to address tonight is a little bit on the bullying program, reporting fires, and juvenile fire, I can't remember the acronym. Anyway, I'll get to it when I see the other slide. The law enforcement drills will be done by Captain Gould and portable classroom safety, something that came up last when Dr. Lathan asked us to look into that and make sure that the portable classrooms that they're installing now are going to be safe. There's an organizational chart. It's kind of hard to read. Basically, everything's broken down into zones. You have Richwoods, you have Peoria High School, and you have the Manual region. In each of the high schools will be a lieutenant and a sergeant and officers, and usually that's 5 officers in every high school. And some of the feeder schools, and basically these will be the middle schools, will be some officers at designated schools.
Covered with either an officer from the high school or from the middle or primary schools, just how the lieutenants will work with that?
Okay. Basically, not every school, not every middle school has an officer, but there's an officer assigned to some of the schools, and in some of those schools, an officer might be transferred or might have to go from one middle school to another school, but all the schools will be covered by somebody at some point. Now, some have a full-time, some are full-time, and then some are, they're fill-in. One of the things we have on site, last year we had what's called 3 roamers, and 3 roamers took up any slack, any filled in for vacancies for anybody sick or anything like that. But now, because of manpower constraints, we have 1 roamer, and that roamer will go to all the schools or be assigned to any school where there's a vacancy at. Zone 1, again, is Lieutenant Holben. These are some of the feeder schools that he will be in charge of. The lieutenants will be in charge of stopping by every school that you see up on there. Richwoods, Lindbergh, Mark Bills, Rolling Acres, Sterling, Charter Oak, Hines, Keller, Woodrow Wilson, and Jameson. Now, these don't actually match what the IOs do, because one of the things that we tried to do is in Richwood Zone is there's a little less problems at Richwoods. And so what we've tried to do is give that lieutenant a little more responsibility as far as going to each of the schools and making presentations and seeing that things go smoothly. Zone 2, again, William Cabell, Peoria High School, Glen Oak, Lincoln, Von Steuben, Washington, Franklin, Thomas Jefferson, Woodruff Career Technical Center, and Knoxville Center. Again, this is one of the schools where we do have some problems at, and we try to leave most of our officers there. I think there's 5 officers assigned to that location.
Also, would you note that we've added an officer at Glen Oak for this upcoming school year?
Yes. Glen Oak and, well, Roosevelt also have an officer that's been assigned there on a full-time basis now. Zone 3 is, again, Danny Swain, Manual, Calvin Coolidge, Harrison, Roosevelt. Again, Roosevelt is one of the schools where an officer has been permanently assigned. There was an officer there once before. It didn't seem like the need was there, but over the past year and a half, we've seen that there was a need to have an officer down there. So currently, there's an officer down there right now. Valeska, then Whittier. Zone lieutenants, they've been divided into 3 zones, which I've explained to you on our organizational chart. These zones are generally based on each high school and its feeder schools. The zone lieutenants will be in charge of all SROs and existing sergeants in their assigned zone. What I need to point out there is that we're not trying to take the school principal away from their jobs of watching over the SROs and the sergeants, but I think the lieutenants can take a lot of the responsibility off of them. And these guys that we've selected are very knowledgeable, and they know an evaluation system, And I think they've worked with kids before, and I think they'll be a big asset to the program. They'll have an office in their assigned high schools, but will move from school to school within their zone. And that will include them stopping by any type of meeting that, that any school might be having. They might stop by, I think they're assigned to all the open houses, they'll be there. Any outside activity that impacts the school, if we need to go off campus and attend meetings, we'll also be doing that. But I think it's important to let the public know that we still have their interest once they leave school, because there are problems that occur on the way home at bus stops. And then you hear of problems that are caused or happen at school, and then they carry on until when they get home. And so we're willing to try to address those problems and attend any meetings that we can. Zone lieutenants will be the primary evaluator of SROs and sergeants within his or her assigned zones. And what I say by primary is that basically they will evaluate all the sergeants and SROs with the principal also. So they'll also be a big part of it. The principals, we're not taking, like I said, a lot of the duties away, but I think that we can concentrate on the SRO's duties by having these lieutenants. Building administrators will still have input on the evaluations, and they'll compile the monthly zone stats, which will be forwarded to the school safety administrator. And I think we found out over the years that the stats help us make decisions as far as placing people in different areas, and we're going to try to compile as much stats as we can. The officers right now will give daily reports. That means anything that occurs during the course of a day, they're to send us in an evaluation of what happened during the course of that day. Anything that's critical in nature, the zone lieutenants will be responsible to make sure that I know, and in turn Dr. Lathan, and of course then the board knows. Anything significant in nature, hopefully there's nothing that significant, but there are things that happen that need to be reported to Dr. Lathan and the board. Building administrators should feel free to communicate with any of the zone lieutenants, and we want all your input, even though you might not have lieutenant in your school every day. We think it's important that you communicate any concerns you have so that we can address them. Zone lieutenants are considered administrative personnel, even though they will be in uniform, and they will at first be in white shirts. They kind of don't like the white shirts because years ago I used to have a hairstyle called the Jerry curl, and they didn't show up too well on your uniform. So they will be wearing white shirts though. The zone lieutenant would be the first point of contact for any school safety related issue. They in turn, if there is a problem, they will be in contact with the school principal. Some other duties that are not up there that I'd like to brief you on is they're going to conduct a daily roll call, and this is to take information that might have happened on the previous day and give that to the officers, or things that the first shift didn't get that second shift had a problem with. They document disciplinary action, evaluate all police reports and in-house reports, see that we follow all the rules and regulations, monitor radio traffic from the Peoria Police Department, which is very important. A lot of times we get calls, or sometimes we're not made aware of. Maybe they're doing a drug raid in the area, or there's a car stop that happened in front of the school, and maybe they're taking down someone, and we get flooded with phone calls when they make a car stop out in front of a school, and it looks like the officer has his weapon out or something. So a lot of times this information needs to be passed on, and we need to monitor the radio of the Peoria police officers. Oversee in-house criminal investigations. A lot of times we have investigation or things that need to be followed up on, and they'll work with the Peoria Police Department to do that. Report all critical incidents, which I've talked about. Attend training classes and make sure that all school resource officers are properly trained, some annually and some periodically. Review and evaluate safety and security needs. This comes in part, we'll be doing what's called a security survey at all schools, where we go out, We take a photograph of the front of a school. We go inside and look for any safety issues whatsoever. It could be to cracked concrete in the front. That stuff is, of course, reported to Building and Grounds. It could be some faulty wiring, anything that would cause a safety problem in the school. It's not only security related, but it's also any type of safety related problems. And all our officers last year were trained in giving security surveys, so they all know how to do them now. Again, the evaluation form I talked about, we piggybacked off the Peoria Police Department because a lot of the information that's on the evaluation is job specific. I think with the old form, it wasn't job specific. There was things that weren't non-applicable on there, and so we've changed the whole form. And both the officers from the Peoria, came from the Peoria Police Department, know how that form works, and we'll be training the school principals on how it works also. But I think the big thing about it is we do a mid-year and an end of the year. So at the mid-year, you know, any problems, questions, concerns, any improvement that might need to be done, we focus on that at the mid-year, and so they're able to, try and do a little bit better during the end of the year evaluation form. I told you we'd get the pepper spray. Just like anything, there's tools that are on our belts that we have to use. A carpenter has to use a hammer, a nailer, teachers, books, pens, pencils, computers, those things. And we have some things on our belt that a lot of times people don't like to hear about it. But they used to tell me years ago that ignorance of the law is no reason for doing a crime or doing anything. So what we're trying to do with this pepper spray orientation program is make kids aware that sometimes in a school we will need to use pepper spray. And one of the biggest things I think about this is that we're asking the students for their cooperation when we have two students or more fighting, that we give the proper command so that they move out of the way so innocent people aren't pepper sprayed. And from that, we've went to a different type of concentration. It used to be a spray. Now it's foam. It's more direct. And the officers are going to be trained in giving orders. As a matter of fact, on Friday the 16th, they're going to pepper spray class and also the use of force class. So all of this stuff will be covered in there. Like I said, we developed
How long has pepper spray been a part of their tools or resources?
As for as long as I can remember. I'm sure that it's almost on every duty belt for anybody connected with law enforcement.
I just want to make sure that it's clear, because I don't want
Yes.
the headlines that say District 152 used
No,
pepper spray
this
on
is
students
something that
starting
they-
this year.
Correct. This is something that they've
know
used,
I've
but
been
I think the point here is that we're trying to warn kids prior to our use, and we're trying to let our officers know that prior to approaching a kid or two kids that may be fighting, that we give verbal commands, that we give a tap on the shoulder in an effort to get their attention. And what this does, I think, it saves from injuries from the officer and any staff member that might be trying to break up a fight. And we got to meet with the fire department sometime this week. They do have a protocol for decontamination. We're going to try to follow those protocols. Also, we've identified decontamination stations throughout any school, so that if it does happen, and hopefully it doesn't, that we're able to get them to a decontamination station and do what we have to do to get the out of their eyes, the material out of their eyes. These are some of the guidelines. We're just going to ask. Most of the stuff that we're putting together is kind of self-explanatory. At least we've tried to make it that way. Excuse me. The staff should review the presentation prior to showing it. It's really very, very simple. Contact your zone lieutenant if you have any questions or you need assistance on it, or you need to for us to do a couple of the sessions so that you feel comfortable with it. Show the presentation to the students and refer to the building administrator for guidelines on which classes and timelines. So they have to figure out what class that they might want to show this in. And the presentation itself, I would say, would take probably no longer than about 15 minutes. Maintain a rosters of which students have seen the presentation and saved, and all the names shall be forwarded to Chris Copeland. We're going to be working with Chris Copeland to make sure that every student in the district coming in new or coming in from the 7th grade, 8th grade, is able to view this presentation. The next thing is the bullying orientation program, and I think this kind of complements the new policy that the board adopted and developed. As the purpose is to raise awareness of bullying for all students attending District 150 school. Students who have a clear understanding of what bullying is, what it looks like, and how it affects others. Students receiving this training are more likely to refrain from bullying and take action to stop it when they see it. Every District 150 school must communicate its policy on bullying to students and parents on an annual basis. Information regarding bullying will be made available to parents via the website and through printed material. Bullying assessment activities shall be completed by all District 150 students within 30 days from the start of school. And again, this is to complement the board policy that we've adopted here lately. And I think, and it's Dr. Lathan's ideal that we show, we were just going to make it available, but she wanted every student to have the knowledge of what bullying is, what it causes and does to kids.
One other also addition to the parents is the lieutenants will be available to every open house to make sure this information is also shared with parents. So we will cover it through Parent University, through the open house, also through the district website, and then every student will have the information presented to them.
And I think the PowerPoints for all the bullying orientation program went out this morning, so everybody should have it. And for the principals, don't feel, if you've got some criticism of it, I'm not an educator. When I came here, Dr. Lathan has asked me to do a couple things that I had no idea what the heck I was doing. And she just simply looked at me and said, "You'll learn." And so here I am. I'm going to skip this next slide too. This is just an example of the bullying orientation program. It was developed from K through 12 to address all these things. This logo was made by School Resource Officer Mize. Every time we put this up on a PowerPoint, for some reason it comes up a different color, but anyway, I think it's a great logo that he did. Just to give you an idea of what we're doing with K through 3, and again, it goes through the 12th grade. We're asking that the school principals review the PowerPoint presentation prior to showing students. Again, I think it's self-explanatory. After you look at it a couple times, it's easy. If we did it, I know that they can do it. Give pre-test to all the students. Basically, we're going to give a pre-test to see how much they do or don't know about the school policy that was developed. They're going to grade the pre-test. Each question is worth 10 points. I'm going to show the PowerPoint incorporating your own ideals and views, and they can put their own input. We're just giving them guidelines, and as long as they cover what the board policy is in here, there shouldn't be a problem. Review the test with students, and the students who miss 4 or more questions must retake it. Everybody, believe me, the way we've developed this, will pass it if they listen just a little bit. Once all students have successfully completed the test, record the scores, and again, Chris Copeland's going to assist us in recording those. Okay, I'll just flip a couple through.
Junior Fire Setter Intervention Program.
Now, they might be giving away the answers, right? What is bullying? Again, these are just some of the PowerPoints that are on it. Again, they complement the board policy. Keep going.
Junior Fire Setter Intervention
Okay.
Program.
I'm going to try to get there here. Well, Chris, you better get that back from the press there.
They have to go out to the schools and take the pre-test also.
Well, I'll get there.
You'll learn.
Oh, okay. I just give you this part. This is the anti-bullying award. If you pass it, you can get this for successful completion of the Peoria Public Schools Bully Orientation Awareness Program. There's a bully complaint form. I'll kind of summarize it. Basically, we have to keep a record on all bullying. Bullying usually occurs when there's 2 or more incidents that occurs to a student. We have to, within a 2-day period, find some resolution to that problem. If we can't, then it's turned over to school safety. Effective immediately, and this came as a result of a fire that a couple fires that we had last year, and they were minor fires where kids set a garbage can, one set something in the back of a shed on fire, toilet paper, trash cans, those type of thing, and then we had something that occurred at Woodruff. And it says, effective immediately, any fire in any school, district-owned building, facility must be reported to the Peoria Fire Department. This includes incidents occurring with or without students present 7 days a week, year-round. The report must be made regardless of the size of the fire, even if it's only smoking or smoldering at the time of discovery. And basically what they're saying here is they want to be called just to make sure that that fire's out and didn't spread anywhere. And as a result of that, this program was adopted by the Peoria Fire Department last year. It's a Junior Fire Safety Intervention Program. And if there is someone that sets a fire, no matter what degree of fire it is, of course, this is basically for minor things, trash can fires, maybe they set some paper on fire. Their goal is to counsel these kids before they start setting bigger fires.
Is it fire setter or fire safety?
It's fire setters.
Okay.
Yes. People or students or kids who set fires. And like I said, it doesn't matter how minimal. If it's, of course, they set a fire and it almost burns down the school and you know, causes injury to somebody, then we have to go the legal route. But with this program, they're trying to keep them out of the legal system.
So will we be sending all of our chemistry teachers to the fire setter intervention?
Okay. And then the last thing that I have, the question came up about some of the training that we do. When I first got here, we really didn't take time to record all the training, and now everybody has their own personal training file. And some of the things we go through is CPR, hazmat, pepper spray, which we'll be going through this coming Friday or next Friday, gun range, nonviolence intervention, and DCFS training. Some other things that officers, if they're interested in it, and most people have all these things, cultural diversity, social networking, anti-bullying, which most of us had, crowd control, verbal judo, it's a way of talking to people, trying to get them to do what you want them to do before you ever go to hands-on. Identifying people, and this is a big concern anymore, mental illness, gang training, drug recognition, and juvenile procedures. Another thing that we're doing now, we have one gang intelligence officer who's at Manual, and there will be one at Richwoods and Peoria High School this year. Safety drills by Captain Richard Gould. Oh, okay.
Thank you, Chief. And I know as Rich is coming up, I know we had a discussion last week with union leadership about violence-free schools. I hope you can see, President Dutro, that we are moving toward that direction to try to prevent any violence in our schools. We know it still happens, but there are some things that we're putting in place this year to help address that.
Good evening. I'm going to talk to you first about the required safety drills as it pertains to the crisis plan. You see that there are 7 required drills now. That is up 1 from last year, and I'll explain a little bit more about that. Of course, we have the 3 fire drills. We have 1 bus evacuation drill. We have 1 shelter-in-place drill, for example, a tornado. And now we have 2 law enforcement drills. I have put shooting incident on there because it's very specific as it pertains to the new law. Of course, 1 fire drill must be certified by the fire department, and 1 law enforcement drill must be certified by a local law enforcement agency. Oh, shoot. There we go. Certified. When I say certified, I mean observed, evaluated, documented, and approved by said outside agency. This is not a rubber stamp. This is not a walkthrough and a nice job. We want to be critiqued. We want to be evaluated. We want to be criticized. Reverse evacuations, well, if it's for the fire department, a fire drill, these things are very serious. We take them very seriously, and we want to do them right. I'll talk a little bit more about that as well. In regards to the law enforcement drill, one will be conducted in the fall semester and one will be conducted in the spring semester. The building administrator may choose which drill will be certified by the law enforcement agency. Talking about that law enforcement drill, one more slide before that. SRO active shooter training. In the spring of 2013, all SROs received active shooter training. It was conducted at one of our own buildings, the former adult ed building. A lot of our SROs told me that it's the best training they've ever had. It was very intense, it was very dynamic, it was very realistic. It was mentally and physically exhausting, and they learned an enormous amount about these types of crisis situations. One of the things about the new training is it's a rapid response. There is no, excuse me, there is no, in the past when you had a crisis situation or a shooting incident, it's very common for officers to wait for a minimum of 4 to form a diamond. There's several different techniques, but a lot of it involved waiting for a certain number of officers. Rapid response means that the first officer addresses the suspect. There is no waiting. The point is that seconds count. Every second counts when we have situations like Sandy Hook, and you can't afford to wait for anyone. So is it dangerous? Yes. It is unsafe? Yes. The officers understand that, but that is the new push in the training. We do anticipate this to be a yearly training that we go through every year to refresh, and as the training evolves, this is something new, but that is the plan. Excuse me, on June 1st of this year, the Illinois General Assembly and the governor signed Public Act 980048 into law. This basically, I'll paraphrase this for you, this mandated that every school district in the state of Illinois do one active shooter situation, or they call it a shooting drill, per year. We had something similar to that the year before, and actually what they did was the two public acts looked very similar. They actually changed the language, which I'll show you. This is the actual language from law. It's a cut and paste. What they've done here is they've got the lines through the text that they struck, and they've got underlined. They've underlined the new text for this act. And if I can work the laser, the important thing is you read law enforcement drills may involve situations that call for the reverse evacuation or the lockdown of a school building. Evacuation or reverse evacuation incidents shall, not may, include a shooting incident. You used to be able to satisfy the standard with a bomb threat, which would have been an evacuation, suspicious persons, or a hazmat situation. That no longer meets the standard. Yes, ma'am.
I have a few questions about the shooter drill. Should I ask those now?
Go right ahead.
Okay. So I've done all the other drills as a child myself, but this was not something we had when I was in school. And so I would like to know, first, how it's presented to the very youngest kids, like what they're told in advance as they're being taught what to do. And then I'd sort of like to know what happens during the drill.
Well, that I'll have to defer to, and I would encourage you to look at, if you want to Google Public Act 98-0048 at some point. There is about 4 more pages to the act itself, and what it does is explains a lot of the mechanics and logistics of how the schools get together and with law enforcement to decide on dates and things of that nature. As far as what the drill looks like, I will say this. If you Google school shooting incident drills, what you'll see is a lot of situations where they made the drills very realistic. Okay, they took crisis situations, they added all the sights and sounds of school shooting incidents and dropped it on unsuspecting student populations. This has happened in other states. A few people applauded it, but it got some negative reviews as well. We have no intention of involving any sort of real sights and sounds of a school reverse lockdown or whatever it is we choose to have it look like. The law, the standard of the law, it actually says, if you take a look at it, that the school does not have to have the kids in session when you do this drill. That's up to the administration. We feel like it's a good idea to, under the right controlled environment, to do a reverse evacuation, which is a fancy way to say a lockdown. The school children are less, the evaluation is not so much on the school children as it is on the staff members and how they direct those children. What do we do with the kids in the gym? What do we do with the kids on the playground? What do we do with the kids in the lunchroom or whatever the case may be? How do we manage those kids? How do we manage the children that might be in the restroom? Those are the things that we want to be critiqued upon. And at least for the younger children, they can be told as little as necessary as far as the drill goes. I'm sure they'll wonder why there's men in uniform walking around the buildings, and especially in some of the buildings where we don't have SROs. But I do think it's important to obviously to tell them that it's only a drill. Their reactions as it pertains to the lockdown drill are not nearly as important as our observations of how the children or how the staff will manage the children, if that makes any sense. Go ahead.
If we were right now having a lockdown drill and you were our classroom teacher and we were the students, what sort of thing would you be telling us to do?
The first thing to do, and it's interesting, I don't have slides on this and I don't want to go on forever, I know it's late, but we are receiving training right now from a lieutenant from the Peoria Police Department, and he is training us, the lieutenants, the chief, myself, on an approach. It's actually a program that we can give to our own schools. There's basically two components to it, and I want to tell you really quick about that before I go into what a lockdown will look like. The two components are, one is a school safety assessment and checklist. It's basically a walkthrough that one of our lieutenants will do with one of the principals in that zone. Not just the principal, but maybe all the building lieutenants. The criteria of this walkthrough are the same as a lot of crisis plans. School entry points, visitor entry, classroom door policy, door locking system, lockdown procedures. We have those. We have a crisis plan in place, and I think it's excellent. What is exciting about this, I lost my screen. What's exciting about this is that this is building specific. This takes, every building has different challenges, whether it's as new as Glen Oak or as one of our oldest buildings. Every building has challenges, disadvantages and advantages to their school safety, just in the physical nature. Once we're trained, we can walk literally step by step through this building and find out the law enforcement perspective on what the things that we can do. Best practices, not carved in stone, but best practices on our visitor policy, our classroom door policy as it pertains to when you have a class, is your door shut and locked? I can tell you that the Peoria Police Department would prefer that it was. And that might be a little bit more difficult to enforce. But these are things that we are talking about with the administrators. We observed one on Friday, the walkthrough, and a small parochial school where we observed took over 2 hours. We walked every square foot of that building. We talked about the way the classroom windows look and how easily they can be covered. We talked about smart boards need to be shut off. They create light. The pushes, and I will say that, let me not get too far ahead. The second part of it is a PowerPoint presentation that we would give to that after the walkthrough, we would give it to the school staff, the entire school staff without the children. The goal is uniformity. The staff knows law enforcement's reaction to a crisis incident and vice versa. What are the expectations of the staff for the police and vice versa in a crisis situation? Again, seconds matter. It's presented to the entire staff. It's direct and to the point. They don't pull any punches. They use some pretty. Their slides are pretty. Some are fairly graphic, talking about previous school incidents. Some of the language is rather raw, but it's meant to get your attention. To get your attention that this isn't one of the things that you want to not be paying attention to. It takes about an hour. topics covered are the types of threats, active shooter profiles, bullying as a common thread, times of highest risk in your school day, crisis priorities, of course, law enforcement response. That's what we should be prepared. The 5 of us should be prepared to do that once we are trained and certified from the Peoria Police Department. As to your lockdown question, this is a great room for a lockdown because it doesn't have any windows. One of the things that if it had a classroom window, it's actually kind of a neat trick. If it had a door a door with a window. What the recommendation is to cover that window somehow. You don't want the suspect or the perpetrator to be able to see inside your classroom. If it's a metal door, he suggested laminating some sort of poster with putting magnets on the back of it, lowering it below so you have to be able to see in and out of the classroom the other 99.9% of the time. But you take that and in that lockdown situation, you simply slide it over the window in your door. Number 2, you shut the lights out. Number 3, you shut off your smart board if it's on. Number 4, you pull the drapes or the blinds. If there's windows to the classroom, you darken the classroom as much as possible. Number 5, you move the students to an area of the classroom where if the window was broken out per se, you move them to the most remote area of the classroom where if the window, like I said, if the window could be seen through, it would be the most difficult to see the students. And then you wait. That's what, again, this is a difficult room to describe, but I could point it out in better detail, if I had a regular classroom. Portable classroom safety. This is going to be a quick one. We're looking at the safety of the portable classrooms and what, event of emergency, that type of thing. This is going to sound rudimentary, but what is a thunderstorm watch? It occurs when large hail and damaging winds are possible. Students and staff in portable classrooms should be prepared to move to a place of safety if a thunderstorm watch is issued. This slide is not exactly correct because we want students to be evacuated from portable classrooms when a severe thunderstorm watch is issued. This is not gray area. This is not negotiable. When we have a thunderstorm watch, we move the kids into the building. That's the directive. This slide says a little bit more about the same thing. B is the push. Remember, tornadoes can occur with little or no advanced warning. Moving classroom students to the main building during every severe storm watch may be a hassle, but it also may save precious seconds and lives if a tornado or extreme windstorm hits later. Some safety preparedness topics for the modular classrooms. Each classroom should be equipped with telephone, two-way radio communication, and weather alert radio. We're going to make sure this happens. We have a duty to notify the police and fire department, just like any building plan, any building floor plan. They have to have the exact knowledge of where these portable classrooms are on their properties. Again, we don't want the fire department going the wrong direction around the school if, heaven forbid, there was some sort of emergency at one of these sites. So we have a duty to make sure that they know exactly where they are. We also have Regional Office of Education requirements as pertaining to these same specifications on the modular classrooms. We have developed a PCU a risk assessment worksheet. It's used to identify the perceived or real risks associated with the use of modular classrooms. Basically, the 3 main topics we have are fire safety, physical safety, and severe weather. We will actually begin to check off the boxes on these, all the criteria on this assessment worksheet once the units are in place. And I believe that is the end of our presentation.
I do have a question.
Ms. Ross, you have a question?
Yes. Chief.
Yes, ma'am.
One of the questions I have is, as you were doing your introduction, you mentioned, well, maybe you did mention what the protocol was for incidents in the schools. you talked about originally the principal would have the overall protocol, overall responsibility for determining whether or not the police is called. Is that still in place?
Yes, it is. And all these three gentlemen here, we went over all that in their type of orientation. We're still going to follow all board policy regarding whether or not to call the police. Just like when the state's attorney came last year, we can make those decisions as to whether the police need to be called. In most cases, it's better handled through the disciplinary process as opposed to, sending a kid to juvenile detention center. And of course, as we very well know, that the juvenile detention center is set up on a point system, and not every kid meets that. And that's not our goal, to try to incarcerate kids or send them to the juvenile detention center, but to try to get compliance.
Okay, that's one question. And also, I know it's going to be kind of hard to, streamline the language, so to speak, because several times you refer to any police department or police officers when we wanted the language that we've been talking about as school resource officers.
Yes, and I'm just used to, apologize to saying the word police, but, when possible, and anytime we do a presentation or something in the narrative form of it, I'm always reminded either by the secretary or one of the other people that the word school resource officer. But again, that's the direction we're going to. We're trying to be, I believe, more socially oriented, and that's the reason why we selected Lieutenant Holben, because he has that type of experience in learning how to diffuse problems and issues, and so we're going to look to him for a lot of guidance.
The titles lieutenant, sergeant, captain kind of implies police, and so I guess at some point we will.
It does, and there was a lot of discussion over the phone with Stan, a lot, but we feel that in order to have that structure that we need to bring back, it's important that we have titles. I don't want to come up to this gentleman and say, "Hey, Bill, I need this done," but now I guess it's an informal way. I'm actually the school safety administrator, but people call me chief. But I think it helps us in our structure and to get to the point or the place that we need to get.
Yeah, I just probably missed the transition, because we had talked about assistant administrators.
Yes.
Okay.
That's the proper title.
Those are the proper titles. It just seemed, as we talk, awkward to, in everyday talking on the job, to address one of these as assistant area safety supervisor. Then we just decided that lieutenant just seems, it just works better in the field, but their official title.
Yeah, the acronym.
Is the assistant area supervisor.
Okay, so I'm glad you cleared that up on the official titles. Okay, all right, thank you.
And and also, like, there's more. We called around and asked a bunch of security agencies and things what they refer, and even using the word security, they still use the rank. They still use the rank structure. But I see your point.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
I just want
understand.
us to all be on the same page.
Right.
I know I missed some things sometimes, but
Yeah.
that one just kind of went.
Yeah, there was quite a bit, some healthy discussion on that. So was it?
After we have our first severe storm watch evacuation from the portables into the building, I would be interested in having the principal and maybe a teacher or two involved in that, just coming and talking to us for 10 minutes about how big of a hassle it was, how it went, and that kind of thing. I'd just be interested in hearing about that. When it comes to the active shooter drill, and this may just be me, but this is something I have very high anxiety about as a parent, because it's not something I had to do as a child. And I'm just sort of wondering how much parent anxiety there is out there about this, how well we're communicating with them, what their children are learning at school, because, you know, we do make a point of teaching parents these fire safety things and having their kids bring home fire safety, talk about making a plan at home and things like that. I'm wondering how we're projecting this information home to parents, and if we could do a better job, do a job at all.
And because this is a new requirement, if you heard Rich say earlier, they are participating in the training now, then they have to train all of us. So we are not at the stage right now to be able to communicate to parents, because we want to make sure we have the right information. So when they complete the training, then they're going to train cabinet and other administrators, and we're going to push that information out. But we have not decided on a plan of communication to parents and students, because they're still going through the process of the training. I don't know if there's anything else that you want to add.
I mean, what I would like to know as a parent is, I understand and assume all the stuff that's going on behind the scenes. I want to know what my child will experience during the drill, and what, you know, what they will be taught and what they might be hearing and learning. And even just a one-page, you know, Q&A saying, what will my child be told about the drill? Your child will know it is a drill. That will be very clear. What will my child be trained to do? That kind of thing. I think that would help me with my anxiety. I'm sure we should survey more parents, and some with less anxiety than I have.
We all have that same, and that's why we want to make sure we have that information, because I know sometimes our students, last year when they had a drill, they don't take it seriously. And so especially with middle school students, I heard about all the giggling and all the things. And so we are, as a parent, also nervous, but we want to make sure we have the right information.
Right.
And when we send it out, and we can do the Q&A, but we just want to make sure that they have the information, that they're sharing it with us. But we will definitely work on making sure we get that information out.
Okay,
And then
excellent.
actually bring it back and present it at a board meeting.
That would be fantastic. Thank you.
Any other questions? Just let me clarify, this drill would be conducted in every school building?
Yes.
Okay.
We have to go to every single school building in order to satisfy the requirements.
So sometime during this school year, every one of our buildings will have that safety type drill
Correct.
conducted.
And if the Peoria Police Department doesn't have the staff, then under that law, we can actually conduct the surveys, but they assured me that they will at least have one person assigned with us while they're doing the drill. And again, we're not going to do anything to alarm the students and create any type of havoc within the school. It's not going to be to shoot them up, bang, bang. It's just, we're just going to ask them to do some of the things that Captain Gould talked about, you know, all those things. And again, we've had big discussions on that, and we've read all the horror stories of shooting a fake gun, and even though the kids knew it was a drill, there's a big, everybody gets trampeded, and they run out the door in all kinds of directions, and people are injured. We're in no way going to do anything to harm our kids. We're going to do it the right way, and I'm sure the Peoria Police Department agrees with us on the proper techniques to use.
Oh, just clarification on that. I did hear, is it Captain Gould? Sergeant Gould. I did hear you say that you hadn't even decided if you were going to do it with students in the school district, in the school, or with staff. Really, you hadn't decided how you were going to do it, right?
Actually, that's an option. It's an option that can be decided at the building level, whether or not they want this drill to take place with the students on a regular school day, for example, or perhaps on an institute day when you've got your entire staff and you want to conduct a drill when the students are not present.
I have some of the same concerns, so as soon as you get the training in that, I'm hoping
Well,
that-
believe me, I'm in favor of doing it with the
Yeah.
students.
I mean, there are some students who the only safe place they know is at school. And I would not like them to be traumatized to the point that they don't want to go back there.
I think it's done in a manner, if it's done right, the way we think, that no kid will be harmed or disturbed by any of the training that will take place.
Sure, and I mean, I do imagine it's just like fire drills after a while, where it's, you become habituated to it, and these are good skills to have.
Duck and cover.
What?
Duck and cover.
Duck and cover, yes.
Yeah, basically.
But yeah, it's anxious. It makes me anxious because it's new.
And I think they put that title on it, which kind of
Yes.
adds some drama to it and things, but Believe me, nobody's gonna get hurt.
Mr. Crawford.
You sweating? Just to kind of follow up on some of the safety issues, I know that we've added some cameras at our buildings. My concern is more who is entering the schools. And if, Dr. Lathan, if you could speak to that as we enter this new school year and how we're improved to deal with the folks that are going to be entering the schools so we keep potential unsafe problems out of our buildings.
Well, all of our schools now, Otto's back there, so by Monday, we'll have the cameras installed and the security system to buzz visitors in. Some of our front office areas, we're redirecting the flow of people when they come in, so it's like a one-way in. You saw that last year when we were at Rolling Acres, and so we're working on that, and so we've made some changes. So we're working on that, and it's really school by school. So some schools, you'll see the reentry of the office area a little bit different, or you'll just notice that once again, the person that's buzzing them in. Also, the system is on the principal's desk. Make sure it hasn't changed, so jump in if I'm saying it wrong. The secretary's desk and also the principal's desk, so they can have a camera to be able to see even after hours if someone comes up to that door. And then the visitors are, of course, tracked and have to sign in, looking at IDs before they move throughout the building. And then sometimes they're not allowed to move throughout the building based on different situations.
Right. I mean, I know this goes without saying, but because we all understand that kids might not take this seriously, and who knows to what degree you're ever going to get them to take it seriously, I think it's really up to the adults and the people inside